Yeah, I was originally going to use this as the roll-in for the podcast, but I don't know if I'm going to use that part anymore.
Probably not.
But people will probably hear this part and wonder what we were talking about. So, Mr. Josh, how has your week been?
This is the weekly question, right?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Not the venting session that we just had.
Yeah. Not too much. Most of it was spent playing Fire Emblem Three Houses.
Nice.
Really fucking good.
Yeah, I've heard so much good things about it. I'm glad to hear you really love it.
Oh yeah. It's so easy to get lost in that game.
Where would you say it stands right now in terms of like your favorite Fire Emblem games? Is it already towards the top already, or do you need time to figure that out?
Yeah, the ones that I've played, yeah, it's definitely up there. Which unfortunately isn't a big list.
Okay.
Path of Radiance on the GameCube, Awakening on the 3DS, Fates on the 3DS, and Shadows of Valentia, or Echoes, whatever the fuck it's called. And I played a bit of Binding Blade on the Game Boy Advance, but haven't really played that much of it to have a really good opinion.
Okay, but I really thought you were gonna say Finding Nemo. I just want to get that out there. Like, I don't, I guess I just don't hear too much stuff with finding in the name, so I just immediately default to that in my tiny brain. But that's cool though. Oh, Binding.
Yeah,
like Binding of Isaac. That's a good game, actually.
They have a card game of that now.
Wait, Binding of Isaac?
Yeah, it's at Target.
Awesome.
You can buy it.
Well, at Target?
Yeah.
Dude, they've come away.
My friend got it for us, and we've been playing it. I suck at that game, and I always end up gambling, so...
Well, the actual Binding of Isaac game is really hard, too, so...
Yeah, no, it follows the same suit.
That's fair.
I'm terrible at that game.
Yeah.
What else?
Aside from that, let's see, haven't really done too much else at the top of my head. With what free time I've had today, I've pretty much spent it building this new Gundam that I am working on. It's the Barbatos Lupus from Iron-Blooded Orphans.
Love it.
Just recently put a pic up on my Instagram. So I've been doing that while playing Macross in the background.
And you also recently finished Iron-Blooded Orphans, right?
Yeah, about a couple of weeks ago.
Cool.
Yeah, because I saw the first season like
a
while ago, like when it came out.
Right.
Yeah, and then I just never got around to the second one. I just kind of held it off. But then I went back and finally watched all of it.
There you go.
But yeah, so working on that one. I've been watching Macross. Recently watched Gundam 8th MS Team. Watched RoboCop last night. That was cool.
Hell yeah, dude! I saw you shared with me that you got the director's cut.
Yeah, it's been a while since
it's
I
really
last
good.
watched RoboCop.
It's a genuinely awesome flick. It's a shame that the rest of it really isn't that great.
Yeah, I remember liking the other ones as a kid, but I'm pretty sure now the other films
it might have Page Master syndrome.
It may.
Because I remember someone
really
posted that recently. Someone posted Page Master recently, a picture of Page Master, and said, "Do you remember this?" And I just responded, "I wish I could forget." Because that's honestly how I feel about Page Master. Like, I loved it when I was little, and then I saw it again as an adult, and I said, what the fuck was wrong with me?
Oh, geez. Yeah. Yeah, I need to find the other movies just to see how those were. And then, I remember even as a kid, watching, like, episodes of the TV show. Fortunately, I don't really remember those very well. But, it seems they're kind of hard to find, because it was originally a Canadian show, and I think most of the distribution was in Canada and other countries rather than
Canada.
Yeah, Canada.
Canada.
Yeah, I think that pretty much sums up my week. It really wasn't too eventful.
All right, Miss Mallory, for the podcast audience, how was your week?
It was good.
Yeah, I'm sure it was.
It was great.
Join Patreon for the extra
$100 tier only.
Yep. Let's see. We worked on more Halloween stuff, so we got these pillars. We've actually built these pillars. They're out of plywood and foam, for our cemetery. We finished those last week.
Symmetry.
So now we're painting them. So we're using spray paint and we're using a hot.
Yeah.
What is it called?
It's a hot glue gun?
No, it's a
hot.
It's a hot
tamale?
Like it's a hot air gun, but it's a
heat gun.
Yeah, a heat gun. I don't know why that was so hard.
A hot. It's the thing. The hot.
Yeah, it's the hot
gun.
The hot gun.
So we're using that to actually make the stone curves, detail. It's actually turning out really well. We made 16 of these last weekend, and so now we're taking these little detail work things and doing that. My sister just is finishing up the new Link game that came out. She's almost
Link's Awakening?
Yeah, she's almost to the egg, but she's one of those people, and it's the only way that you should play a game is by getting everything. So now we're looking for all the shells and all the heart pieces.
I always strive to do that, but I fall into the issue. Okay. Whenever I try to do every quest in Yakuza or every quest in it's hard to say Fallout or Skyrim because really doing every quest is pretty fucked and impossible, at least in a matter of... People do it, but not reasonable. But narrowing it down to games where there's a lot, but it's doable, so I will keep it narrowed to the Judgment or Yakuza series, where it's a lot, but doable. But the problem is I find myself burning it out myself on the game a little bit, and then I end up taking a break for a while, and sometimes... I either never come back or it takes me forever to come back.
Yeah.
I hate when that happens.
Yeah, and that's basically what happened with me with Judgment is getting to the final chapter. I played that game beginning to the 80th hour, oh my god, basically anytime I had time to, whether I was streaming it or not, because I streamed most of that game. You can actually see in the archives I streamed most of Judgment. I had such a blast that the first 80 hours was fine. But then I did too much of the dating stuff and the side quests and everything, and then I was just like, fuck, man, I honestly, I would fire it up, sit at the title screen, I would load in, and then I'd run around and get into a few random fights and be like, I don't play this right now, actually. Yeah. I really can't be fucked to play this right now. It sucks. Even a game I love, like Judgment, I burned out on. And, but I hate that, though, because then I end up, again, I guess we can all kind of relate to it, because we all kind of, sigh at our familiar sigh of, hate it when that happens, because, it sucks, because even in your, favorite game, that'll happen. Yeah. You can get burnout, and,
she's done this with every Zelda game, and unfortunately, insane. I love Zelda. I love playing it with her. I do not have the patience for the water temple.
Fuck the water
cannot
temple.
Stand water temples. So even as a kid, I remember just not giving a crap.
Yeah.
But so what we do now, and it's been since we were kids, where she'll play through the game and she'll get all the random stuff that we need to get. But I'll sit there and do the walkthrough with her. So if there's something like the shells right now, we can't find all the shells, and that's one of the key pieces to get all the heart pieces. I think I'm not even sure at this point. And she always she just gives me a map and then she tells me this is where they are, and then I end up questioning her. But so we play it that way. But she never finishes the game until she's ready to finish a game. Breath of the Wild took us months to finish because she would not beat Ganon until she wanted to beat Ganon. And it's always weeks later. So I've been helping her with that. And then I went for a hike today, so I got to play Pokemon Go for a little bit. I was finishing up Kirby, because I haven't played that. I got burnt out on that, even though...
The new Kirby?
Mm-hmm, the one for the Switch.
The one that's free to start?
I don't know if it's free to start. I bought... no, not the newest one.
Oh, okay.
It's the one before it, where you
That's
get to...
such an interesting concept. Just to hijack the convo a little bit, just because I'm going to forget if I don't. I find... Okay, I think that giving someone that first loot box for free is a little malicious, because I feel that drags you into the loot box thing. But I find the idea of Nintendo trying free to start as an interesting concept, because they really do... It's almost it's beyond a demo. Or rather comparable to a demo where your save progress can transfer. For example, for the latest Dragon Quest, which I'll get into that. I've been playing the fuck out of that lately. You could, if you played the demo, the progress you made there, you could just go ahead and start there. And I love it when it does that. But this is kind of like that, except a little more advanced because there's quite a bit you can play in the new Kirby game on Switch. And then it's pretty convincing to go ahead and get the game if you really enjoy it. But I don't find that as malicious as loot boxes, basically. But anyways, going back to what you're saying, though, it was the... which I can't remember what the name of it was.
It's the one where you play with friends and you can give hearts and you make them your friends and then they fight with you. I can't remember the name of it. Is it
Star
Allies?
I don't know.
I think it's Star Allies.
Something like that. All I know is Wooly would say that there isn't a bad Kirby game to date, because one time they were talking about perfect franchises, how that's pretty much not a thing. And Pat would fight Wooly on it, but... I would say that I'm not 100% sure if I would say there are no bad Kirby games, but certainly the worst Kirby games are less egregious than some others, like Sonic or whatever, where the bad games are actually factually shitty.
Yeah. I don't think I've played a Kirby game that I don't enjoy.
They're at least fine at most. So I would say that he has a decent argument for Kirby being pretty clean record.
And that's always been my franchise. My sister was always Zelda, and my other sister was Mario, I think.
I like fantasy, but I think Zelda is just too nerd for me. I mean, like
that's coming out of your mouth. That makes me laugh so hard.
Well,
too nerd.
Let me rephrase that. My kind of nerddom is really over the top stupid Japanese shit. So whether it's JoJo's or Yakuza or whatever, that's the kind of dumb nerd shit I like. But I would be oh wow, look at that nerd playing fucking Zelda and wearing a Minish cap. Wow, what a loser. It's one of those things where I'm just my buff rainbow man, alright? You don't touch that, okay? Little green hat. All right.
That's how my sister is over
7 out of 10. How about that, green hat man?
I've been playing Kirby to try to finish it up because I want to get all the the puzzle pieces and the extra maps and stuff.
Good stuff.
But I got burnt out because I can't find this one puzzle piece, and it's making me so mad that I don't want to finish the game till I have that. Because I've played 100% so far.
I hate when you get to a point when you're playing a game, right? And if you ever had a puzzle you got stuck on or a room or something you got stuck on and the answer was just so freaking obvious and you're just you go back and you're
I feel that's what it's going to be
how many times did I walk past this guy I just needed to talk to progress the room?
I've played the level 12 times. I played it every day since I got the game and I can't find it. And it's in this level somewhere and I'm I've gone through everything.
You said your sister, right?
So I'm playing Kirby and my sister's playing Zelda.
Going back to your sister real quick, did she play Cadence of Hyrule? Because that's by the developers that make this game I really like called Crypt of the Necrodancer. It's a Crypt of the Necrodancer is one of the hardest games I've ever played, and I'm good at rhythm games. I may be shitty at Souls-likes, but I consider myself pretty good at rhythm games. Naturally, being a musician ever since I was little, I would say that there's some sort of affinity for that. But it's a really hard rhythm-based roguelike, and it's a lot of fun, but very hard. And those developers were given the license of Zelda from Nintendo to do a game for them, their own version of Crypt of the Necrodancer. But it was really interesting, too, because it's one of the few Zelda games that do not coax you by using Zelda in the title. The game is just straight up called... It's not Zelda Cadence of Hyrule, it's just straight up Cadence of Hyrule.
Yeah.
Which I absolutely love the fact that game has been getting so much attention and clout without having to tag on Zelda at the start.
I feel like she might have.
If she hasn't, tell her to check it out because it's really cool. Now there is a mode if you're really not rhythmic or you find yourself, because you have to move in time with the music as you go through the dungeon or you'll lose your combos. You can easily get yourself killed if you're off beat. It is so hard, especially the boss fights make me want to tear my hair out because I just get nervous and then I'll get off beat and all that. It's just really cool. But it's a rhythm game roguelike. It's a lot of fun. Both Crypt of the Necrodancer and Cadence of Hyrule. But what they did add for those who may not just be good at it is you can turn off having to be on rhythm, and you could play it like a regular roguelike as well.
Oh, okay.
So if you do buy Cadence of Hyrule and you're not good at it or not very rhythmic person in terms of being able to process a fight and rhythm at the same time, it's hard because you're trying to count the beats out in your head while fighting, and it's like, okay, fuck, and it's just like
then you just start button mashing.
It can get very confusing because if you mash, you'll pretty much get off beat and kill yourself.
Yeah.
I'll have to ask her. It's really cool. But if you don't, or if you get frustrated, you didn't waste your money. Now, if you bought Crypt of the Necrodancer and you're not good at it, you just wasted your money because you're not. No, you didn't because you support that awesome developer. But in Cadence, they do give you the thing where you're just like, if it's not your thing, or you're just not good at it, you can turn off the rhythm part and just play it like a regular roguelike. So
I'll tell her about it.
Good stuff. But but Kirby.
And yeah, so I'm at this one part, and I don't want to finish the game till I get that last puzzle piece. I don't know where it is. I think it's the golden puzzle piece in this level.
Thank God you don't just look it up. I hate that shit.
I don't want to just do that.
I hate when people do that. I hate it when people. I used to play with this one friend who would just be like, we'd play like Final. I remember the perfect case of this. He from day one played Final Fantasy VIII, just following the guide the whole time.
Oh, yeah, no.
Like, why the fuck?
What's the point of playing the game then? Just read the fucking guide.
Like, maybe if you're trying to go completion and you're like already like mostly through the game and you're just trying to make sure you didn't miss any.
Like I do that with
like
Pokemon,
play the zone and then be like, okay, before I move on from this zone, I want to make sure I have all of this, all of that. Yeah. Fine, I guess. I still personally don't think you should. Strategy guides for me are if you're just absolutely fucked and stuck and you really don't believe that you're ever going to play this game again if you do not use a strategy guide, or you're done already and you're going for a 100% run.
The only game I do that with is the Pokemon games, because that's what we did when I was a kid. We'd look up the walkthrough once we played through most of the game. But now, in order to stay on track with what we're doing, because I will lose track of what I'm doing every time I play.
Conversation that we're doing.
But I play with the handbook for Pokemon, just because it makes it, like, for me, it makes it easier.
Some of those handbooks are really cool, by the way.
And they have really good drawings.
For youngins, I don't know, I'm sure they still make them, but they used to make some badass handbooks back in the day. I remember going to the Scholastic Fair and then getting some of those.
Oh my gosh.
It was so good.
So many memories.
Scholastic Fair. I don't even know if that's a thing anymore.
It is. They still have book fairs at schools. My nephew brings.
I'm sorry, that was awesome.
I still buy out of his book fair.
I just remember. I would get so hyped for it. I was a big Goosebumps mark. And, I just remember, and Animorphs. And I remember my mom would just. I would tell my mom, which ones were out and which ones I want to get, because I did collect them chronologically for a while. And she'd give me $5 or $10 depending on how much of a shit I was or not, and she'd give me money accordingly, and then be like, go for it, because obviously better that than some other dumb bullshit I could be spending it on. So it was really exciting. I remember I would get so excited. I'd buy the book. They had cool limited edition bookmarks you could get. It was awesome. Good
all the little random erasers.
Oh yeah, the erasers. Yeah.
I remember I was given given the chance to buy a book, and then I could have $2 or $3 to spend on the little random stuff that they had. And I also remember one of our book fairs, an author would come in and sign the book for you, which I thought was really
that's
cool.
Awesome.
What?
I can only
we never had that shit.
I can only think of one time that happened, and it was an author I can give a fuck less about.
Yeah.
It's the only time that ever happened for me. It's not like we ever got R.L. Stein or Applegate to do that shit.
Yeah, I wanted Shel Silverstein to do it, but I'm pretty sure he wouldn't have done that at my elementary school.
Okay.
But, I mean...
I wonder if I still have some of my Animorph books. Have some.
Mine for sure in my parents' house in we still have it in the exact same cupboard I've had it for forever. It's cool.
So I'm trying to think of what else I did this week. I worked.
Evil work.
I think that's it. I didn't do too much. I've been trying to just calm life down since things blow up all the time.
But
yeah, that's about it. I did start looking at purchasing some new games. I know me and my brother-in-law are excited for Destiny 2's new expansion to come out.
Ooh, that's actually coming up on the docket, so keep that in mind. I'm very excited to talk about that, actually.
But yeah, how was your week, Patrick? What'd you do?
Good, busy week. So, proud of myself. One of my days off this week, I actually did no content creator stuff or work.
Nice.
I took a whole day to myself, and I played Dragon Quest 11S, which is... I love how a lot of... not just, I mean, I'm not just happy that the articles are talking good about it, because the game itself is known to be, it's been out since 2017, so obviously we know it's a good game already.
Yeah.
But everyone is talking about how, whether you're a PS4 fan, you liked it on 3DS or whatever, that this is the definitive version. It's called Definitive Edition, and they said that it actually, unlike most games, earned its title of definitive, because it really is the best version of it. Not just is that game perfect to go, because it's about a 100-hour game, so not is it just perfect to, like, because I'm going to be out tomorrow, for example, I'm bringing that shit, I'm going to play that in between the downtimes. So not just perfect for that, but the customization is really awesome in there. You can set the soundtrack for the new symphonic score or the synthesized score, so you can have it sound a little more old school and it still fits the game really well. You can play the entire game in 16-bit or full HD graphics. If you do switch it to 16-bit, it does lower. There's a few things that don't exist in the 16-bit version just because of graphical limitations. Some levels or things wouldn't make sense. So you still get an 80-hour campaign in 16-bit and a 100-hour campaign in full 3D. So the amount, and you can, all you gotta do is go to the church and you can switch back and forth as you wish. It's phenomenal. They did such a good job. Fully English and fully Japanese voice acting available. If you unlock it a certain way, you can also get the Dragon Quest VIII ambient music to play as you go throughout the thing. It was personally one of my favorite Dragon Quest soundtracks, so that was really cool. Just stuff like that, those little tweaks. You can do... you can switch the camera in battle where you can like run around real time. It doesn't really affect much of the actual attack. It just gives you the ability to kind of run your character around like a jackass, kind of like I don't see any tactical reason to. That may be wrong. Or you can have your traditional turn-based RPG camera, which is what I have it on. Just because it's really distracting to be able to just run around for no reason like a dumbass. But it gives you the option. So yeah, it's really cool. It's a perfect... You can really choose your options for traditional and modern RPG, and it's really good. It's still a turn-based RPG regardless of your settings. So if you have kind of fallen out of love of that kind of stuff, where you're, having to grind and all that stuff is not really your thing, or turn-based combat, you just kind of like... Because I do know people who have grown out of it, and me... I do get tired of it sometimes. It is definitely more of that. But it certainly is the cleanest Dragon Quest experience. If you've never played one before, it's a great one to just go ahead and get. It's all the bed story anyway, so it's really fun.
I had a question for you. Have you ever played Hollow Knight?
Absolutely. One of my favorite games.
So I am stuck.
There's a lot of ways that game is so hard to get stuck in.
Yeah. I'm not sure exactly where I'm at. I'm sure we'll have to talk about this off of the podcast.
It's a Metroidvania, so yeah, you could be anywhere.
Yeah. But I just want to give a shout out to Hollow Quest. Because
Team Cherry
it is awesome.
Yeah, Team Cherry is really awesome.
Beautiful game.
Yeah, if you guys have not checked out Hollow Knight, it's an awesome Metroidvania game with gorgeously drawn animation.
I was playing that this weekend too.
And the sequel featuring the Silk Song character is going to be out later in the year, so definitely check that out. Team Cherry did a great job. I believe it's their first foray into the gaming world. And
it plays really well.
Yeah, it's so
pretty. Amazing. Yeah, I have it on PC, Steam, and Steam/PS4/Switch.
I have it on Switch.
It's really good. Yeah, it's one of those games where because of how much time you're going to be spending playing that game and getting lost, Switch is a great platform for it. I find myself using it's out on Switch as an excuse to like triple dip on almost everything. By the way, at time of recording, and for a while, Bastion and Transistor are on sale for $3 and $4 respectively. Well worth it. Supergiant Games, awesome studio. So check out those games too. Great soundtracks. If you're a sucker for great video game soundtracks, both those games are totally worth it. But anyway, so that's what I was doing for most of it. Dragon Quest. My sleeper hit game of the year. I'm going to do my first video game award video since 2014.
Ooh.
I'm super excited. It takes a lot of time to do those. This is why I've been skipping it the last few years. But I'm going to do it. And I have a new category, which is sleeper hit of the year. Spoiler already. I'm going to tell you what it is. Sayonara Wild Hearts. That's kind of a game that, like, not too many people are hearing about it now,
Yeah.
but not too many people heard about it prior to its release.
Mm-hmm.
I can only recall, and it's only because I had to go back and listen to the episode to make sure he wasn't full of shit, that Wooly brought it up about 7 months ago. And it's the only instance I can think of where anyone even mentioned Sayonara Wild Hearts. But it's a really awesome... It's a pop album that masquerades as a video game. So there are video game elements. You jump, you have a rhythmic based attacks and stuff like that. The game itself, though, is only about an hour and a half. Because you basically, it's a one big musical experience. If you like Journey or anything like that, it's that kind of like adventure game in a way. And but they do a really cool thing. The visuals are all like super aesthetic purples, pinks, vibrant neon. The music itself goes anywhere from like EDM to like really racing like almost pop punk to like straight up pop. It's very, very awesome experience. But the thing that they do very well in it is there is a very overlaying lesbian kind of storyline going on, but but in an action game kind of way too. It's hard to explain, but when you experience it, of course, there's people on Twitter who are being like, "You're reading too far into it. It has nothing to do with." The developer has straight up been like, "Yes, this is the lesbian story going on in this game." So yeah,
it's there.
But it's really well done, though, where it doesn't feel ham-fisted or forced in there. You can tell that they took a lot of time to make it relevant to this speechless narrative, essentially. It's very cool, very cool. It's always hard for, I think, to tell a story without too many words, and this game does a great job of it. Nice. Sayonara Wild Hearts. You can pick it up on PS4 or Switch for $12.99.
Okay.
Again, you're gonna get. There's a few ways you can play it that they encourage. One is it is split into levels, but you do get an achievement on PS4, and then you get an in-game achievement because Switch doesn't really have real achievements on Switch for playing it all the way through the whole hour and a half in a row. There's little ways you can do it and other things I don't want to spoil that you can get achievements for. But it's really cool, though. And it's an awesome experience. Again, for $13, totally worth every bit of it because it's one of the more unique games that I played this year. So it was nice to see it come out of nowhere. I just saw a trailer for it on one of the recent Nintendo Direct. And it is out now, again, on PS4 and Switch. I think they're going to go on Steam eventually. It's been weird. It's been one of those things where games like Untitled Goose Games have been coming out on Switch before PC. Which, by the way, Untitled Goose Game, I ended up giving an 8 out of 10 in my review video because it was good. I think I may have rated it a little too high just because I was caught up in the hype of it at the time. But it is really good still. Probably should have given it a 7, to be fair. But it's a really good puzzle game, like I talked about last time when I got started a little bit. I got a bit further into it, and it's a lot of fun. I'm glad that it was, at first I thought it was going to be like a ha-ha memes game, like because it's a little goose that's angry walking around. But the little jazzy soundtrack's perfect. It's the kind of game where when it was raining for a little bit the other day, I kicked back and fucking played it for a bit and listened to the rain droplets hit the window, and it was amazing. It's a cool reactive soundtrack. You know, like Killer Instinct has a reactive soundtrack, and I made that comparison in the game where it may not be like that hype of music because it's more toned down jazz, but it is reactive, so you know you're making progress when the music starts ramping up, you know, and stuff like that. It's really cool. So, good puzzle game, and it was definitely deeper than I thought it would be. Based on the initial trailers, it looked like you were just going to be this asshole. You're still an asshole goose, but it looked like you were just going to be this asshole goose that's just running around honking.
Yeah, I was showing my friend that the other day. I was like, I'm definitely getting this game
just
so I can be a jerk.
Absolutely worth it. Biggest issue being that if you want to play it on PC, folks, you got to get it on Epic Games right now. That turns out that's where it went. Because I remember last time I reported, I was just like, the Steam's still withstanding. What? That's weird. It's not. It's just that, like many Epic Games exclusives, see you next year for Goose Game. But it will be on Steam eventually. Like many games like Borderlands 3 and whatnot will be on Steam eventually. But yeah, so there's that. I also watched I had a really busy week, so there's going to be a lot of this. Okay. It was a slow news week, so just so all the audience knows, we're not filling for time. This is going to be most of the podcast, kind of like a talk session, basically, because there's really, really slow news week.
Yeah, I didn't
really
see very much.
I really tried hard. There's going to be some big stuff to talk about, but not much stuff to talk about, so we're taking our time with this. But
I did see more about GameStop, but that was like last week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I watched the documentary on Netflix, Surviving R. Kelly.
Ooh.
Now, I knew R. Kelly was fucked up. You know, we all know the piss story and all that stuff. But I never knew how fucked up he was. I mean, you're talking about, like, Charles Manson levels of, like mental destruction and stuff. Like,
you definitely have me at Charles Manson.
It's a hard watch because it's actual victim testimony on there.
Ooh.
So you're hearing all of this from the victims' mouths, all the accounts and everything. It's like I said, it's a good watch, but I hate using the word good because of obvious reasons.
Considering the material,
exactly. But it's insane, he brainwashed these girls, he would keep them in hostile, situations. You're talking about, keep them locked in a room, with a piss bucket, and, just absolutely enslave these girls mentally. Mm-hmm. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Not to mention his pedophilic tendencies, and also the fact that he's always overt about it. Mm-hmm. And there is so much the evidence they show that they're talk about that it was in court and everything. Mm-hmm. They said that the fact that he's still not in jail is a mindfuck in and of itself.
Beyond them.
Because there is just literally a video of him doing it, and he's still somehow roaming the streets.
Yeah.
It's crazy. It's crazy.
There's another
one of the quotes that stuck with me was one of the moms of one of the girls says, "Fucking motherfucking money can literally buy you anything," and not just was that said during a very deep moment in the documentary, but it was also very true. Because to me, with our current fearless leader in the White House and R. Kelly, I can only think to myself, the only reason these motherfuckers aren't in prison right now is because they got hella dollars. That's the only way to really explain how they're able to just get away with literally everything.
Yeah.
But yeah, great documentary. I would definitely advise watching it. They kind of, the way it veers off, there may be a season 2 in terms of more testimonies, but it starts off from regular accounts to more recent accounts to even, without spoiling too much, something so recent that they even have footage with the mother trying to do some stuff for her daughter, real time, actually now that this is a thing that's known, trying to help her out by trying to find her daughter and stuff like that. And so it's a really good watch, again, despite the content of it, but it's a hard watch.
Yeah.
Because again, this is all accounts. They interview people who knew R. Kelly growing up. They talk about his past childhood, how this probably happened because he and I had a fucked up childhood, and mental analysis of him and everything. It's really good.
There's another show. I watched it. I don't remember why I didn't bring this up, but it's called Unbelievable, and it's on Netflix right now. It's a Netflix original, but it's about a girl who was raped, and just it's like a docuseries. It's based on a true story. But it was really good, and it just shows how the legal system worked in some weird ways, so that, or the police officers in that county, or that district, the way they worked, and it was just kind of it really made me irritated and made my blood boil a little bit, because the whole time I'm oh, I want to punch these people in their face, but it's a really good one, and I literally binge watched that in 2 days after work. I was don't talk to me, I'm busy. Leave me alone. But it was really good. I definitely would say check that out.
It's called what again?
It's called Unbelievable.
Okay.
It's just really crazy. That whole story is crazy, and it's crazy in a bad way, but it's also really good. So it just points out how the police can miss a lot of things.
Nice.
So
not nice. But
well, yeah, not nice, but it's awesome.
Good, but not good.
Read all the reviews, and it's just it's really good.
There you go. So definitely check those out. You want to get depressed and have zero faith in humanity by the end of your watch either of those series or watch both. So there's that.
Or just be like me and who loves the creepy side of everything. Like,
oh yeah.
Me and my sister the other night we were watching Rob Dyke. I think he changed his name on YouTube, but we were watching him. He did a serial killer file on Pinkerton, which is a Canadian serial killer who was on a pig farm, and it was crazy. He ended up like feeding humans to people.
It's like a real
a real serial killer.
Oh wow.
It's crazy. We were just like, why? While we're eating pizza. So, it could just be like
While
us.
we're eating pizza. Well, but to be fair, while eating pizza is just a good activity to do in general.
It was stuffed crust. It had the cheese in the crust.
Ooh.
So good.
I've
been craving that all week.
God damn it, now I'm on pizza, and I just ate like a bunch of food before. That's why Mallory was locked out at the side of the house before we started recording, because I was eating and didn't have my phone on me. I swear to God, I can have my phone on me all day and no one wants to fucking message me, and then like the second I put it down, my phone just explodes.
Yeah.
Like I have a million tweets that I need to respond to. I actually get YouTube comments, I get whatever, and it's just like, God damn it. Speaking of YouTube,
What's up?
big year, got my metrics in for the quarter. So this year has been my most productive year easily so far,
Nice.
but primarily because I've also put in more effort in it, arguably this year than I have in the past year than I did in a long time. But just going through my analytics, and in the last year, so it did it through October of last year, even though we're not quite in October yet, but we are
You're
close
getting there.
enough. So in the last 365 days, these crazy people have watched 243 hours of my stuff. So, that's... speaking of serial killers, I killed a lot of y'all's time,
killing it
apparently.
right there.
So, I'm happy for that. In the last... 28 days, or the last, because for some reason YouTube does 28 instead of a fucking month. So thanks, YouTube. The last 28 days analytics were...
What calendar are they going off of?
Gotta make February feel special.
Yeah, basically.
You're a real month.
Yeah, so we got 1,300... 1,300 minutes of views. So about 20... So I average about 20 hours a month in the last quarter, so that was really good. Podcast, of course, still doing good. We're still hitting right at about 200 downloads through all platforms a month, so that's really good. But yeah, no, it's really good stuff, though. I wanted to do a little sleuthing just because I was curious, because Josh and I got started around very similar times on our YouTube channels. So I looked back at what our first videos were. Thank God, I didn't want to watch them because... Lord knows our videos were not that good back then. I don't want to speak for Josh.
Yeah.
I'm sure his production quality was good. Like, it's fine. But
It's okay.
So I look back. My very first gaming video was in September 2012, and it was some cringy Sims 3 videos that I made.
Ooh.
And then Josh's very first video was in March of 2014 in his Agorist series. I watched a little bit of it, I'm not gonna lie. The mic got a lot better. So.
Oh, did it?
I forgot what mic you were using back then, but...
Oh man, you weren't looking at the old channel though.
No, I just saw
channel.
I just saw the current one, because you had the Shiro plays. Yeah, no, I didn't count our old channels, because before ZD Rock 3R is my ZD Rocker channel, which is also... hella demonetized, because that one started in 2008 and has like 1 trillion copyright strikes, so that's on the cusp of death.
Just slowly dying in the corner.
But to be fair, I also didn't do gaming stuff on that, so I forgot about your old one, but yeah.
Yeah, like I had those real shitty like Amnesia videos on there.
Oh, that's right, yeah, that was before the reboot.
Yeah.
So
that was before I even had capture software. I was just using a fucking camera.
Yeah, so Josh's originals were actually addendum Amnesia videos that were captured through a camera externally.
Ooh.
So
yeah,
which also
our
very first video, or one of our very first video games that became the modern channel for me was the Slender, that we did a party Slender, and I filmed it with my phone. That was a good time still, though. This is one of our first times all playing Slender.
Nice.
So it was good stuff. But yeah, no, we've come a long way. My view count to date for the channel that existed in 2012, or excuse me, 2010, but I didn't really start making videos till 2012. To now, I'm at 72,520 views now. So long.
Yeah.
it's in a long journey. So I'm very happy. I decided to look up Awesome Mally on YouTube, and I found.
Why would you do this?
No, you got to be included too. I already said me and Josh, so I looked up Awesome Mally on YouTube, and it was some weird, cringy rap review channel / kind of trying to rap himself.
Oh, I was like, that's not me.
Or maybe that's just what you want us to think.
No, I'm pretty sure I don't do that.
I closed that window.
Oh, it's because it's Awesome Space Mally on YouTube.
No, I looked up Awesome Mally together, and I was very
You were like, I don't think that's her.
I said, wow, Mallory has changed a lot in all forms and shapes, so this is her now.
When did we meet?
This is who I really am.
Like 5 years ago? Wasn't that 2012? Yeah.
Something like that.
I've gone through a whole transformation.
Look at that. A whole change in every
I still look
sense.
at pictures of when we worked at Lowe's, and I look like such an emo kid. I'm like, who let me have a job there? Just letting you know.
There you go. But yeah, now just a little recap of the trio of us, kind of where we've been and where we are on YouTube, and it's been a good journey. I'm excited for it. I'll tell you what, it's something I always harp on, but now I can say that the proof is in the pudding with how everything has, like, I have the statistics to back up the growth of the channel and the podcast, is that a schedule really does help.
Yeah.
Like, absolutely, because a lot of my sub boost and everything, like, just this week alone, I'm up 10 subs already, so, like, it was just 6, and then when I posted that picture, I got another 4. So, schedule helps. Speaking of schedule, went to K-Pop Night recently and recruited a couple of people that I'm going to be working with, but starting a brand new series. So now I'm going to have a Friday slot. So Monday, Disconnected Cast, Wednesday, a few minutes in it. My reviews will be sprinkled out in between as games come out, and I work on those reviews. And then on Fridays, I'm going to be launching a new series. I want to reveal the title yet. But it is going to be 1-minute K-pop dance covers, so I'm going to be having that as my Friday rotation, and I'll be working on those as well, so staying busy, which is also why streaming's not coming back for a while, and my music is on the back burner because time. I can't invent time. I can't create more time, unfortunately, and all this shit, working on 3 consistent series that I have to literally get up like every other day now, minus the weekend. It's a lot of shit to like, and then curate the podcast news, and then it's a lot of work. But I am enjoying it, so there's that.
That keeps you busy.
Yeah, basically.
No time for
I
depression.
really have to be careful. I think that 3 series is going to be where I'm at for a while. Trying to, keep that going.
Yeah.
Let's see what else. That's about my week. K-Pop Night was a lot of fun. There's another one at the Amp Room this Friday. So October 4th. DJ Benito, my friend's going to be doing it again. So come check them out and be cool. Because everyone was cool last time. They even did free hot dogs. For those of you guys who went, free hot dogs. And no one died that I know of. Speaking of dying and coming back to life, Spider-Man's back.
I saw that.
For some dumbass reason, it's still not an official deal, so they squeeze out another turd, and that is like a Freudian thing, because I really need to use the restroom. So you guys...
Oh, we talk amongst ourselves?
You guys can talk amongst yourselves about Spider-Man, I guess.
I mean,
know Josh really likes Spider-Man. He can talk about Spider-Man. I'll try to make it quick. I'm walking away now.
Josh, tell me about Spider-Man.
Me leaving the room.
He does whatever a spider can. That's what the song says. Yeah, I heard about he's gonna stay in the MCU. I don't really know the specifics about it. I just know a lot of people are happy, but the people that I've seen who are happy are also the same people that kind of want Disney to keep gaining more stuff under their umbrella, which I'm not for. But I mean, whatevs. It sounds like it's still a mutual thing rather than Disney buying out Sony, so I guess that's good for now.
Okay.
That's good for now.
Thanks for that review on Spider-Man.
A review on Spider-Man?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't hear about the news on Spider-Man, so I don't know what we're talking about. I was just told apparently Spider-Man staying in the MCU for the movies. Oh, that's it?
Yeah, like Disney and Sony apparently made some kind of agreement. I don't really know the specifics. I don't know if I care to know the specifics right now, at least. But I mean, whatever. That means more Spider-Man in the movies, which I guess is fine because the last movie, Far From Home, ended with a cliffhanger, kind of. So, clearly they're going to set up for another film.
Yeah.
So I guess it all works out.
Okay.
That's fine. I just want there to be another Spider-Verse movie, because that's way better.
Yeah.
That was a way better movie.
That's the one that came out in 2018, right? The animated version?
Sorry, that's yawn. Yep, the animated one.
The one with one of my favorite actors, Jake Johnson. That's what it is. Jake Johnson.
Jake Johnson.
Johnson.
That's a person.
That is a person. It's got a very gruff name, and I like it. Jake Johnson. But yeah, Spider-Verse came out in 2018. I haven't seen it yet. It looks good though.
Oh, it's so good.
I'm working my way through a lot of movies right now. There's just so many Spider-Mans.
The animation kind of takes some getting used to, but once you get into it, it's fine.
Oh, okay. As long as I'm not just wasting my time on that. Not that I don't waste my time on movies that don't rock, but usually when I sit down,
that's really good.
Yeah.
It also has Nicolas Cage in it.
In the Spider-Verse movie?
Yeah, Nicolas Cage is Spider-Man Noir.
Oh, okay.
That's great.
Odd.
Yeah. It was pretty cool. That was a good comic to read.
That was a good one.
Yeah, it's like Spider-Man, 1920s kind of. I think it was the 1920s. It's very old American kind of stuff. It's good shit.
Oh, and
speaking of good shit,
Ali is in it as Aaron Davis. And we're talking about Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse.
Dude, if you want to know about anything cool Spider-Man, just talk to Josh. Josh educated me on so much Spider-Man stuff. Honestly, I need to pick up some good Spider-Man runs and read them, because I borrowed some Wonder Woman from Josh before. I borrowed some Spider-Man stuff back when him and I were still living together. I need to read more.
Yeah.
There was a manga recently, actually. I haven't bought a manga in forever, first of all. I haven't read a manga in a while, and it's been even longer since I've bought one. Let me pull it up on here real quick. It's called No Guns Life. And it's at least new stateside, because that first one just dropped, and the next one comes out in November. But it looks really interesting. The picture on the front is looks like an Ava with a pistol for a head. I know, it's weird. It's like a robot man with a pistol head. Probably has nothing to do with the actual thing, probably, knowing manga, but the artwork looks interesting, so I'm very curious. Part of me almost just wants to delve in blind on something to take a gamble on it, because anime stuff's either really good or really bad, so I'm very curious to just... It seems to be real extremes, at least in my opinion, so yeah. But Spider-Man. So, real quick, I just want to know y'all's opinion in the situation of, because now Spider-Man's back, Sony and Disney make temporary peace again, mom and dad undivorced, and now they squeeze out 2 more movies, of which the next one's going to be coming out July 16th, 2021. With that being the case, would you rather they do this where where we've seen what can happen, and now we know that could happen again? Or would you rather they just go ahead and, if they can't make peace permanently, just remove Spider-Man?
It's an interesting question.
Yeah.
I definitely think one of the main problems was at the ending of Far From Home. It's just that ending where they're just setting it up for a sequel.
Right.
They couldn't have, a fairly closed ending, which just goes into, Marvel's hubris.
Right, of course.
I really think that was the main problem, because had that news happen, okay, for the most part, my reaction was okay. But what was kind of like salt on the wound was the fact that Far From Home had that,
that ending.
Cliffhanger ending. Yeah. So it's kind of like, well, fuck, that does kind of suck that you set this up and then it's not going to happen. So I would think, so long as Disney Marvel does not do that, I think that'll be okay with me. As I was saying while you were gone, I was like, honestly, I would rather see another Spider-Verse movie, honestly. I mean, the Tom Holland ones are fine, but I have my criticisms of them.
Fair enough.
But, yeah.
And like I said, and this isn't, I mean, I make it sound like a joke every time I say it, but I'm absolutely serious that is coming from the biggest Spider-Man fan I do know. Mm-hmm. Like, on a personal level, Josh has always loved Spider-Man, so that's coming. Interesting criticism coming from, a big fan series where you could fairly make very compelling arguments. In fact, Josh, have you ever thought about doing since you really do like Spider-Man or whatever heroes, and think about maybe doing critical analysis videos and stuff like that? Or is it just something that's never, comic book analysis stuff never really been, like, you like talking about it, but it's like maybe not something you've compelled to make videos about?
Yeah, that's kind of, I don't know, because there's so much comic stuff, and I've really been out of the loop for a while. Okay. I was collecting like a bunch of Spider-Man comics. I still have like a whole bunch of the singles from like after Superior Spider-Man, which Superior Spider-Man is a great read. I need to actually get the trades for that because that's such a damn good series.
Okay, so that's one. That's one for me to keep in mind then.
Oh God, yes. You know the premise of it, right?
Recap just in case I'm not putting it together properly.
Okay, so there was a story arc where Doc Ock is dying of cancer, and so he makes this final plan, and Spider-Man does die at the end. Like, Doc Ock wins, and Doc Ock's plan was he switches his consciousness with Peter Parker, so Doc Ock's consciousness is now in Peter Parker's body.
Okay, you told me about that a long time ago, yeah.
Yeah, it's been a while.
That sounds interesting.
So Superior Spider-Man is Doc Ock as Spider-Man. And it's just really good.
That's cool. That's a very wild premise. Yeah. So that's cool. Mallory, what about you? How are you taking the news of the Spider-Man kind of back, but this could happen again in a couple of movies?
Yeah. I don't really care.
Yeah. Okay, so
I don't watch that.
Like,
I don't watch that. Like, it's taken me, because there's so many superhero movies that it's taken me forever to watch them all.
Okay.
That at this point, like, whatever's out, I'll watch. Like, I wasn't able to go to the movie theaters for a while, so like keeping up with all them.
That can be a problem.
Yeah. Like, it was a personal thing, but so I didn't get to see, like, a lot of the newer superhero movies until they were released on, like,
home media.
Google Play. Yeah. And then by the time I got there, like, all the spoilers were done, and people had told me, like, my sister literally told me the whole movie of the last, the
Marvel fight.
Yeah.
Endgame?
Endgame. She told me the whole movie, and then I was like, okay, that's cool, thanks.
That kind of sucked.
I mean, I asked her to, but she, like, definitely did not spare any of, like, the spoilers. She's like, this happened, this happened, this happened. Tyler, like, ran downstairs. My nephew was like, Mommy, you can't tell Aunt Mama this. Like, you're spoiling it for her. My sister was like, well, she's gonna find out anyways because of the internet. So, like, I just haven't kept up with them. Mm-hmm. And so, I mean, for me, we have so many Spider-Mans. We have so many redone Spider-Mans.
I'm in the camp of, like, my reaction to it wasn't quite what some people's was, where people were like, oh, yeah, fuck yeah, Spider-Man. Because I would say out of the three of us, I probably seem to like those movies the most then out of all three of us. Tom Holland's a good Spider-Man, and not that you guys are saying he's not. I'm just saying that, like, summing up my thoughts on it, totally isolated from y'all's. Holland's a good Spider-Man in my opinion, and those movies are fine. I mean, yeah, they're not cinematic gold in terms of, like, but they're probably the best Spider-Man movies that we've been able to be given since the whole MCU thing. And
I still think Spider-Man 2 is like the best one, but that's me.
Yeah, fair enough. That was a good. That is a really good one.
I like it.
Carry on.
Yeah, that's the best. But for me, it's the uncertainty, right? It like, to me, it's like the parents being like, yeah, we'll probably maybe not get a divorce. We'll see in a couple of years.
Yeah.
It's like, they're going to do it or not? Because, like, I'd rather you guys just do it then if this is still a thing. Are we mended or not? I don't like this ambiguity. Especially knowing that they could just piss each other over money is just stupid.
Yeah.
So it's the uncertainty that kills it for me. I'm actually would love for it to be a permanent thing. I would have been excited if they were like, one party or the other just totally relinquishes their bullshit and just gives up. Like if the headline was Sony gives up and sells Spider-Man to Marvel Disney permanently for $1 trillion, whatever the case is, then I would have been like, okay, now I'm excited because now Marvel really does own them. This is bullshit, can't happen again, blah, blah, blah. But knowing that by 2022, 2023, that this could just be the news again, as Spider-Man is gone again, I'm just like, alright, I don't give a fuck anymore now. Like, so to me, it's more so the unofficialness of this thing, another temporary partnership. We saw the last one ended. I just don't, that's what bothers me more, is like, what is this stupid bullshit?
My thing is, I just want a new Deadpool movie. I really want a new Deadpool movie.
Yeah. Deadpool's fine.
Just give me
I
Deadpool.
think Deadpool has the Rick and Morty and Steven Universe syndrome with me, where they're fine, but the audience base killed it for me. There was this one guy I knew who I'm not going to use his name on air, but
you know who you are.
Yeah,
just kidding.
He probably does. He doesn't listen to this. But he was very cringy about Deadpool when it was starting to come out, because he only knows Chimichanga, I'm an internet 4D Deadpool, and he doesn't really know Deadpool.
Yeah.
So he was just like, oh my god, Deadpool is going to be great, blah, blah, blah. Which Deadpool movies are fine. Don't get me wrong. Like, I could go for another one, because at least that's just doing its own thing and not worried about, the MCU or anything like that. They're fine, but that's the thing that kind of killed that movie series for me in terms of, like, me being openly excited about it, was people being very cringy about it prior to some of those coming out. But, yeah, I mean, I agree with you. Again, though that series at least being completely isolated, I'm probably more excited for another Deadpool than I am for these Spider-Man ones, only because of the uncertainty. Otherwise, I would have been the other way around.
I wanted to see, because you guys were talking about manga and comics. Have you guys ever looked up this, it's this app, it's called Webtoons, where, so, I've been, because I love, like, reading and stuff, but I don't always like taking my books with me. But there's a few really good animes or mangas on here, and the only thing that kind of sucks is you have to wait a certain amount of time for them to get released. So if you're on like episode 5 and there's only like 10 episodes, episode 10 or series 10 or comic 10, you'll have to wait like 2 weeks before it's released for free, but you can buy coins on here. That's how I've been reading the different comics and stuff, but it's all like new people doing it.
Josh reads manga, so he's used to waiting forever for chapters.
Yeah. But have you seen it, Josh?
Then I just stop. I don't. Are those the? I think that's one of those apps where it's like a lot of them are from like Korean artists, if I'm not mistaken.
This one.
So I know there's a lot. I've seen a lot of those sites where they're very. They're kind of simplistic, like they're like one panel kind of things.
No, this one's like,
I don't know.
I'll have to send it to you, but it's really cool. I've been reading this one. It's called Lore of Olympus. It's like a new age, like Greek mythology, and it's just like the art style is really pretty, and it's all like just random people who do it. So it's really cool. They have one that looks a lot like Studio Ghibli stuff. It's called Castle Summer. I'm really into that one too.
Because I haven't seen a lot of independent, like, Korean stuff coming out, which that's interesting because or manhwas, as I think, I'm probably butchering the pronunciation, but I know those are very limited. There was one pretty good one that I used to read but then kind of stopped following it. But it was called The Breaker.
Mm-hmm.
That one was really interesting.
I just sent it to you in our group chat, so you can look at it and tell me what you think.
You can read it right now on the air. Okay,
right.
so
tell me a story, Josh.
I've been looking into comics. There's this place called Zone 10 or Zone. Don't look that up. Don't look up Zone 10. It's a gray hentai girl. You don't want that. Okay, now getting back onto the docket. Okay. So Gavin Dunn, a.k.a. Miracle of Sound, has left Jimquisition's podcast after 5 years of continuous service. He stepped down and is leaving the podcast. He's going to be replaced by, oh my lord, I can't remember. But other good YouTube personality person, forgot. But a lot more cynical, very more similar to Jim. But it was very interesting listening to Gavin's final episode. So Gavin was missing for the last month plus, maybe 6 weeks even. And people kind of wondering what happened, where he's been. And what he did is he took a whole social media exodus. So just completely internet free, at least from the internet personality world of internet free. Maybe I'm sure he's still talking to family and friends or maybe on there and stuff like that. Staying away from like public Twitter stuff like that, which I'm almost glad you guys don't deal with the social media side of our stuff because there's a lot of bullshit out there. But
I could do it, but I'd be really mean about it.
Not everybody is quite able to handle the anxieties and stresses of getting like severe feedback sometimes, because he does have a lot of anxiety and stuff like that. And it's interesting though, because he did have a couple of things, and the thing I do like is he is a straight shooter, so he was very forward about some of the stuff he talked about. He did say that part of it that he's stepping down is to focus on music more, because he is a musician by trade. That actually is his main job. He makes video game songs. A really cool Bloodborne song that he has that really blew him up, and a bunch of other stuff. But he's a very good musician, and he's kind of realized that he doesn't really care about, and it was very, listening to him talk was very similar to John explaining to me why he wanted to leave us. Now, John was 3 months instead of 5 years, but it was a very similar reason where John was like, you know what, I like playing video games and I like making my music, but I don't really care about video game politics anymore, so I really don't care to hear what Randy Pitchford's doing. I really don't care to hear that Telltale's getting shut down. I don't care to hear, and blah, blah. And he was talking about that too, where Gavin had a very similar thing, where he was just like, yeah, he goes, I'm just tired of hearing about the bullshit of the industry. It actually is really depressing, and I don't want to hear it anymore. And that's kind of why I'm stepping away, because he's like, I feel like it's not fair to Laura and Jim that he's just kind of like stringing along now at this point and just doing it to be the host because he's always been the other host. Yeah. So he stepped down officially. Now, the interesting thing is where he did open up about how another reason he's stopping is he had a very big wake-up call recently when he's actually been blacklisted by a few developers because of Jim's opinions. Now, that makes me think about you guys, and the fact that if you guys ever feel that my brashness, because I'm definitely not saying I'm a Jim Sterling, but in the sense of being very headstrong about my opinions, even if they do heavily clash with public opinion, it does cause a discord among social media sometimes or whatever. So if you guys ever get dragged into that, I do wholeheartedly apologize. I would understand if you guys were like, my channel suffering because of your opinions and stuff like that, because it was very interesting, because even to him until recently, he didn't realize that this was actually a thing. But he talks about how he has been blacklisted before. He talked about a major developer, which I'm fairly sure he was hinting at. And I do apologize, Gavin, if you don't want me to say this, because he didn't say it. So if I'm wrong or whatever, but I'm just speculating. It seems like he may have been blacklisted by Bethesda. And he's never... anyone who's blacklisted him or not given him kudos, or like, because like developers, when they hear his music and stuff, want to share his songs. They're just like, wow, you know, I don't think FromSoft really did, but this is just an example I'm giving. Like, say FromSoft heard his Bloodborne song. Usually, developers or publishers, you know, they'll say, "Oh, you did the thing." I mean, devs have done it to my videos too, where they pushed. Sweary shared a couple of my things before when I was talking about Deadly Premonition or whatever and all that stuff. But anyways, he talked about how, like, there's stuff where, like, his stuff will not be shared, or his stuff, or he'll try to coordinate with someone and be like, "Oh, I see X publisher has this event coming up. I can't talk to them because my Twitter's blocked by them because of something Jim said 5 months ago."
Yeah.
Or Jim constantly hates Bethesda, so he doesn't get review codes, I don't get to attend their events. So he talked about stuff like that, and he said that he definitely doesn't want Jim to stop being Jim. Or Laura has some strong opinions too, but primarily Jim. And he didn't, of course, call him out like that, but he was like very honest, where he was just like, that's when I came to realize that even associating with this podcast has caused me some unfortunate troubles that I don't want you to change who you are, but I can't also afford my career to take hits like that because I'm guilty by association. So it's very interesting hearing him open up about that. And then you know, Jim took it as not offensive at all, and Gavin, of course, was not trying to be offensive. He was just kind of like, it was a wake-up call that opinions of people I associate with can affect my work. It was what it came down to. And he said that it was a very interesting wake-up call, and the mix of social media anxieties mixed with the fact that his whole bread and butter can be affected by being a part of this thing was why he's stepping down. So after 5 years, Gavin's gone, and you know, just like they do, wish him the best, but it was very cool of him to be very open as to why, instead of being creative differences, vague nonsense explanation, I'm out.
Right.
I love the fact that he really did open up. They ended up doing a whole... The Podquisition is usually about an hour long. They did a whole 2-hour episode to kind of reminisce / discuss why he's leaving. So, very cool stuff. Miracle of Sound, again, is his tag. Check him out if you want to hear some pretty good video game music. It's actually pretty good. So, good stuff on there. Nice to know that he is just going to focus on his passion, which is not... lambasting the video game industry like Jim. In fact, it is music, so good on him. It takes a lot of courage to leave something you've been doing for so long when you realize that it's just not right for you anymore. So there's that. PlayStation has their own store now where you can, like, go to Sony's online store and buy PlayStations or controllers or physical games or anything really PlayStation related directly from them now. The only thing I can think of... So this kind of goes back to... Remember how we were talking... I forget if it was actually me and John or me and you guys, but at one point digital code stopped being distributed through whatever, and they wanted to just do it directly, because why not? You make more money that way. I feel like this is more along those lines, but that doesn't mean... And this isn't necessarily malicious, but I am surprised that they haven't done, like, PlayStation Store exclusive, like, controllers or anything yet. But you know that's coming.
I feel like it's coming. It's gonna happen.
Keyword yet.
Yeah, exactly. But
it's coming down the pipeline.
It kind of makes you wonder why certain people haven't done this yet, because the Microsoft Store has been doing that forever.
Yeah.
That, like, Microsoft Store, Xbox... unified idea always been a thing. You can go to a Microsoft store anywhere, like there's one here at Lock and Tear in the Rim, and buy an Xbox. Like, Xbox sells Xbox stuff through there. Now, they don't, just like Sony's not going to stop selling shit through GameStop or Target or whatever. It's just they sell it directly now through their PlayStation Store. Now, although I don't believe there are any brick and mortar PlayStation stores, I'm surprised they didn't do this yet. Because for me, it's got to be more direct revenue. That's got to be to me, it makes more sense to not go through a third party. Yeah. So I'm just surprised it took them this long to do that, but they're starting to do that. Other than we're doing this, there hasn't been much news related to it in terms of, again, exclusives or anything yet, but we'll see. So there's that.
Yeah.
I recently... that's what I was going to ask you guys. In regards to that, because just like I've never bought an Xbox through the Microsoft Store, despite that being an option, I really still don't see myself buying my PS5 through Sony's store without heavy incentive because of things like Amazon Prime, making that a much bigger incentive to get it through third-party retailers sometimes. Even though I got my PlayStation 4 through Best Buy. I'll never forget.
So did I.
They better have like some super dope like PlayStation Store exclusive, designs or some shit like that.
Yeah, to me, that's got to be a big incentive because you're probably going to go through bullshit typical standard shipping. So you're talking about like a week or two to get your bullshit, and that's just not incentive enough. Like you said, you better have some badass exclusive, thing going on. There's it's like when I bought my Monster Hunter 3DS and I went through GameStop's horrid website. You better believe it's because I really wanted that fucking badass Monster Hunter 3DS, which I still have to this day, which is I just love it. So my prize was actually because it was so hard to get a hold of and resells for a shitload, and I couldn't believe I actually snagged it because I got the thing where sold out. Someone just canceled their pre-order and I snagged it.
Nice.
So I got really lucky with that one.
Just pre-ordering through GameStop online just fucking blows ass because you're paying for shipping. You don't even get the game on the day of release.
You're lucky if you get it the week of release.
Yeah.
It's bad.
Dumb.
Yeah. So and that's how I feel about Microsoft Store, even though I can physically go to one at least, or Sony Store in this case, where I don't see myself doing it, like you said, unless there's some badass incentive. Speaking of which. When I bought my PS4, I'll never forget it because I just went. I went to Best Buy and I just when that came out, it was the day that Last of Us Remastered dropped, and that wasn't the reason I wanted to get it. I wanted to get it because of Platinum announced unnamed project, aka ended up being Nier Automata, Automatic Tomato, and so I went to Best Buy and I was just like, you know what, fuck it, I'm getting a PlayStation 4. I already have my Wii and my Xbox. I'm gonna get the PS4. Fuck it, let's just close the Trinity out. And I went there, and I was just like, all right, I get my PlayStation 4. So, of course, they have all that expensive shit locked up, so they were just kind of, I'd tell them what I want, they bring it to the little desk. And I'd be like, all right, yeah, I'll get Last of Us, I'll go ahead and get Infamous, go ahead and get 2 controllers, I'll go ahead and get what's that, the Pulse headset, the expensive one, right? It's the most expensive one, it's a $200 headset. All right, I want that. Go ahead and give me a year of PlayStation Plus, and then I want to go ahead and get... you know what? Make that 2 years of PlayStation. And then I just started going ham. I was just like, I'm just going to get everything. Fuck it. I'm going to come back to Best Buy 12 times. I'm just going to fucking get it all that. So I ended up spending like $1,200 or $1,300 in PlayStation shit. And the PlayStation rep was actually like doing pricing and stuff. And he heard me. And he goes, bro, can I take your picture for the PlayStation blog? I never ended up checking to see if they ever used that. But he did take a picture of me, and I know they did put it on the Facebook page, but they were supposed to do it in the stupid-ass blog and stuff like that, too. But it was just funny that the guy's just eyes when he's heard me just get one of everything, essentially, for fucking the PS4, or whatever was out at the time.
Yeah.
And he was just like, this dude. He's like, dude, this guy.
He probably called all of his friends.
Hey, dude,
this baller guy just spent.
Did that. But it was fun, though. PlayStation 4... obviously getting a lot more use than my Xbox out of me now. But at the time, you never know. Because consoles have such weak launches now. They just both seem so frail at the time. Anyways, I did a poll recently, speaking of consoles, except I'm talking about a powerful one called the Nintendo Switch. I did a poll recently just because I was curious of what SD cards people are rocking in their consoles right now. Yeah, go for it. Your turn. So I'm just curious what people are rocking in their consoles right now, and because I recently went from a 64 to a 256, so I was just curious. I was like, what's everyone else rocking? It seems like most people are. So Facebook would only let me do a 2 option poll. I wanted to split it up into 64 and less, 128, 200, 256, and then 400 and more. Just because there's only 400 and 500 above that. But it wouldn't let me do that. So I could only do I only did my metrics by doing it 128 or more and 64 or less. And it ended up being an overwhelming 78% of people have 128 or more in their systems right now. And I gotta say, with how many games that have dropped now, like even within the last month where I picked up Dragon Age, Deadly Premonition, Divinity 2, so on and so like just for example, just those 4 games already, that's already like almost 50 gigs. So and that's for like 4 games. So it kind of came down to the thing where I was just like, yeah, we're getting to the point now where Switch had a decent launch, but now it's at the point where you really do need a big card in there. But for me, the reason I didn't go for the 400, I stopped at 256 and didn't go for the 400 or 500 gig one, is just because to me there's already a diminishing return at that point, where 400 gigs to me for $50 didn't seem like that good of a deal. Mm-hmm. I ended up spending I spent like 33 on 256. I could justify that. But I couldn't go like $20 more for like 150 more gigs. I was just like, to me that already doesn't seem, that kind of is like such a good a raw deal. Because trust me, the way I have my Switch right now, I do, and thankfully I can, and I'm trying to get all my games on there without, because I don't have to have all my games installed. Mm-hmm. That's already a fallacy I think that people fall into the trap of, because it almost is a pain in the ass to A, install that many games, and B, you don't really go through that many games. So, like, what are you doing? So, to me, 256, I'm very healthy with. Like, I have, like, 25 games installed right now, and I still have, like, 128 gigs free. Mm-hmm. So, I'm happy where I'm at here, where I'm like, well, I'm not always going to play Okami, so I can always just, that's, like, 13 gigs saved there. I'm not playing MK11 right now, so I uninstalled that. That's another fucking, like, 30 gigs there. So I'm just like, yeah, if you think about it realistically, you could also just not have the world installed on your SD card. Unless a good JoJo's game comes out, and that would be really good. But, so for me, most people, again, 78% of my poll said they were rocking 128 or more. So that's where they're at. So which makes me curious. I don't know if you guys did vote or not. If you didn't, now I get to have more metric data. But what are you guys running? What SD card are you guys? First of all, if you're running vanilla, you're an insane person, because the 32 built in is really like 26. So you're fucked up. There's no way, unless you have no games or you only play really small indie 300 megabyte ones. There is no way you're just rocking the internal memory. So that being said, Josh and then Mallory, what are you guys running in your Switches right now for your SD cards, if you remember?
I haven't even gotten around to getting an SD card yet.
This guy,
my library is just like really low right now, anyways, so that's fine. The only game right now that I have downloaded on there is Celeste. Otherwise, so far, Fire Emblem, Yu-Gi-Oh, and Octopath are just the cartridges. So I'm okay for now.
That's right. Josh and I are going two different ways about this.
Josh, getting an SD card down the road, but probably like I definitely wanted to see high end, as much gig as I can.
For sure. And you know what? That actually, this has just given me a huge awakening in my brain of I didn't even think about. Josh and I are going two very different ways about this. I own 0 game cards. I have almost 40 Switch games, and I have 0 game cards. That bitch is empty 24/7. I never pop any game card into my system. So I didn't even think about it till Josh mentioned that game cards are a thing, because I buy everything digital. Now when our story comes up where that's gonna show you how big of a price I can pay in the future, because that has to do with the story that's coming up later. But I forgot they make game cards for that thing. Whoops. So Josh saves space that way by not having the fucking world installed on his SD card, because he doesn't really need to, because he has game cards. Miss Mallory.
So Josh, I'm rocking it the way you are. I did not buy an SD card because all the games I buy are the cards, all right. The game cards.
I'm out of here.
I think I've only bought one game that's digitally downloaded, and I don't even play that game, so it's not even installed right now.
All right, I'm out of here. You guys are a bunch of nonsense. I'm out of here.
I think the only game that I'm going to buy
are the 2% of my poll where I should have put I don't fucking rock an SD card is the fucking final.
Like I plan on getting one. It's
I know.
What?
I didn't think about it because I only buy the game cards.
I just can't believe I forgot game cards existed. I forgot there's a door to put shit in there.
There is.
I saw that shit. I should have seen. If I saw that shit after you guys were done and I didn't think about it, I would say, "What the fuck is this part of the top?"
You know, we didn't even buy.
Hilariously enough, that was one of the faults of the Switch when it first came out. Was sometimes it would fuck up with the headphone jack or some shit like that. I forgot exactly what the problem was, but. Or Maximilian Dude had a video about it.
Oh, wow.
Like, my nephew, we didn't even buy him Let's Go Pikachu because he just pulled mine out and used it in his. And I was like, cool, it doesn't save to the game card. It saves to my Switch.
All right.
So I'm rocking it with you, Josh.
So, these two are doing... while these guys are going caveman style with their shit, some of us Cyberpunk 2077 people... have SD cards in our shit.
We're living in the past, Josh.
You guys are actually smart though, because you guys actually do save some room, and I didn't even think about that shit. But you also do have to pull the cards out, so I'm already fucking playing that game by the time y'all do that shit. So there's that.
Yeah, there's a trade-off.
It made me think too about how the Wii U had absolute dog shit internal memory, but then again, at that time I ran discs, so who's the caveman now? But yeah, the Wii U had two different console options though. I believe the Switch just has the default 32, whereas the Wii U had a 16 and 32 option with you could do up to a 2 terabyte maximum external hard drive. They actually did have it capped at 2 terabytes. I guess I don't know if the Wii U just couldn't handle it, or
I don't even remember which one mine had. I know it came with Mario Kart in it, but I don't remember how much space it had.
Mine was 32 because I had the Wind Waker one, which just hangs out at my parents' place now because that's the kind of console it is. That's the kind of console that hangs out at your parents' place.
It turns
my
into
3DS and my
console?
I'm not quite on the extremist mode that Pat from Castle Super Beast is at, where he's just like, thank God the Switch is out. I'm going to burn my 3DS and Wii U now because fuck those consoles.
I still have my 3DS.
I'm not quite there where I'm like, fuck those consoles. Because again, I do feel that the Wii U led to the success of the Switch being perfected, as well as the 3DS, because they literally it's their baby, basically. Yeah. I admit, it's leagues beyond, and I enjoy it way more than I ever did my 3DS or my Wii U, despite the fact that I do have fond memories of those. And once everything does eventually get ported or sequelized, I will never touch my 3DS or Wii U again.
Yeah.
That being said, I wouldn't quite say throw them in a fire and burn them or erase them from time, like Pat says, but the Switch is badass. And again, I already do throw the Switch up there in my top 3 consoles of all time, which for me is next to the PS1 and the Super Nintendo. Those have very personal reasons for me. I wouldn't say they're objectively the best consoles, but those are 2 of my favorite of all time, and this one is in the top 3 for sure of all time consoles for me.
I definitely play my Switch more than I play my Xbox right now.
Yeah, and then I play my Switch more than my PS4. So, yeah. Games coming out. Lots of shit. Some for Switch, some not. Overwatch for Switch drops on the 15th. I'm very curious for that. I don't know if I have a lot of games coming out, so I don't quite know I'm going to hop on that right away. The one I'm looking forward to the most, because I've been waiting for October all year for this, is Indivisible. Of course, the Switch port is delayed, so I'm going to get it on PC first and just go ahead and play it on there for now. And then pick it up on double dip on Switch whenever, because I double dip on everything else for Switch, so why the fuck not do it again? And then the other game I'm excited to get back into is Destiny 2 Shadowkeep.
Yes.
The reboot. Bungie finally doing it the way they've wanted to do for the last 5 years now. The way it's supposed to be is absolutely right. And I gotta say, it looks badass. From all the stuff that they keep talking about feature-wise, cross-save, and stuff like that, which is just something I've always appreciated that Overwatch could learn a thing or two about. To the fact that the story seems like it's actually going to get good finally and coherent. I'm very excited. Bungie always tried to sell me through words about what they've always wanted Destiny to be and what it's supposed to be, and I always thought to myself, well, it's easy to say that when you're throwing Activision Blizzard under the bus for being a shit company. But now that you're starting to prove to me that those fantasy words you're saying are starting to become a bit of a reality and it looks like it could really be a thing, I'm pretty damn excited. Now, I still think having crossplay with PC and console is a bit of a problem, especially with Crucible. But but I appreciate the sentiment. I do appreciate the fact that PS4 and Xbox homies can hang out. So, that being said, I will be playing it on PC, but I am very excited to know that if I ever am like, yeah, I don't feel like firing up the PC, I do have Destiny 2 on console already also. You know, I'll have the expansion for that. We're good.
Yeah.
So I appreciate it. I like a lot of the stuff that they're doing. The trailer, the story trailer, looks pretty fucking awesome. So I'm pretty excited. Mallory, you wanted to say a few things about Destiny 2.
So I am so excited. I was sitting in my sister's house. We took a break from Halloween stuff today, and I was watching the homework, because that's when I do this. And seeing the trailer... Like, I got so giddy that I ran to my brother-in-law and was like, are you ready for this? And he's like, what are you talking about? He's like, I need more context. And I just, like, threw my phone. I threw my phone at him, and I was like, this, buddy, like, look. And he was like, oh, my gosh, yes. He's like, we got to fire up our Xboxes again and, you know, just make sure it's all up to date. And I was like, heck yeah. And then our other friend that I posted that to, because he plays with us, he was like, so, we're all taking days off of work, right? To just sit there and play through the whole thing. And I was like, yeah, we're doing that. And my sister comes in and she's like, what? I was like, you want to play Destiny 2 with us? Shadowkeeper when it comes out? And she was like, oh my gosh, no, you guys are lame. She's like, I'm playing Zelda.
You guys are lame.
I'm playing Zelda.
I'm going to play Green Elf Man the game.
So, it was very different reactions, but I am so excited. Like, I haven't played Destiny 2 in forever, just because it got really old and boring.
Yeah, it got pretty shitty pretty fast.
I finished the quest line and everything, and then I just played a bunch of random stuff. But now that it's coming back, like, that's one of the reasons I have my Xbox, is to play it. So, I'm excited. Like...
The reworking and retooling of the
so pretty.
The weapon system building, the way that the year one content's going to be revamped, the way that the story's going to be an actual story and not just Grimoire nonsense. Like, it seems
supposed
really,
to follow
really
the
cool.
lore better than the other Destiny 2.
Exactly. My whole thing I'm worried about is just time management with that. Given all my stuff, I'm just scared I'm going to fall behind on projects because of it if I get hooked on it.
I'm so excited.
But I am very curious to give it its second shot because I really do. I've always wanted Destiny to be great, and after being disappointed 2 games in a row, I don't usually give a third chance, but with it being Bungie's first true attempt, I will consider this technically a different game, and I'm very curious to see where they're going with that. Now,
I'm so excited that it's just Bungie on this
obviously,
one.
time is going to be an issue for you too, Josh, but if you hear it's cool and you get shown some stuff that seems like it's actually a good game instead of not a good game, would you say that it's something you might be interested in picking up again? Because I know you did play Destiny 1 for sure. Obviously, we played that together for a little bit. I don't know much your Destiny 2 experience, but is it something you would be interested in if it's the right amount of fixes and correctness and actually a good game?
Yeah, if they make the game a lot better and not as boring. But yeah, for sure. Because
I always like the
Destiny 2
idea.
is kind of a mess.
The idea has always been cool. The idea.
Oh yeah.
An FPS MMO. I want that to be so good.
I mean, I've always. I love the artwork in it. It's so pretty.
And it's always been at least a pretty game.
Yeah.
For sure. Sparrow Racing League, please come back.
Sparrow Racing League was so fun.
Oh god, if they're able to bring that back, well, I'll be so happy. And like I said in my Borderlands review video, I felt like I had more fun collecting loot in Destiny. The story may have sucked, But I had fun collecting loot there with friends than I did in Borderlands, so...
There was one raid that I couldn't do because you have to jump from this one platform to this
other
platform.
That's the thing I do hate. I hate platforming in that game. Fuck it off right away.
I remember we did that like 30 times in a row, and finally I was just like, you know what? I'm done. I can't do this. And then my friend got me the loot, and I
remember the part where...
Wait, was that in Destiny 1 or 2?
Destiny 2. It's like you're on a bridge.
The only raid I did... Oh, God.
You're under a bridge, and you have to like jump from like the tiniest platform ever to the other tiniest platform ever, and then on top of the bridge. And if you don't hit it just right, you just slide down constantly. And then finally my friend came over and he did it for me. Actually, I took my Xbox to my sister's house and had my brother-in-law and his friend do it. And they finally got it, and I was able to do it. And I was like, cool, I never want to do this raid again. They were like, we got to do it in a week. And I was like, not part of that group. I'll see you guys. I'll do another raid with you later.
FPS
not
platforming,
doing that.
FPS platforming's always been a cardinal sin in my book. No game should have it. The end of story.
Oh yeah, one of the parts that I hate the most in the Taken King raid was the platforming bullshit.
Mm-hmm. Was Taken King raid the one where the stupid ass thing is shooting out and pushing people off of the thing while you're supposed to be doing platforming?
Oh, that's part of it. Yeah. But the one part I'm talking about is when you have to like jump from like those stupid ships or those platforms and they're like phasing in and out.
Oh my fucking god! I hated that so much.
And then there's the one where you have to wait for one of the ships to like get to a certain point. So you have to jump on it and you have to ride it to then jump onto the other point.
I remember how many hours I wasted on that.
Yeah, it was a pain in the ass.
Fuck that. So yeah. Hopefully stuff like that doesn't come back. But yeah, no, I'm really glad to hear that, Josh, because I know that you're like me, where once you fall out of love with the game, it takes a goddamn lot to bring you back, and I'm the same way. So it's nice to hear that you would at least give it the light of day, seeing and hearing it doing certain things just right. So I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah.
Speaking of another game, too, in the title, that I'm not... I get a lot of flack because I just don't think it's necessary. Because I'm the type of person who's like, if a story's good and done, just let it be done. Mm-hmm. Last of Us 2. So, the game looks fine. I'm sure it'll be a good game. Last of Us 1 was a fine, quote-unquote, game. It was / narrative with you play a few parts of it. Obviously, my opinions are the same. If they could strengthen the actual gameplay portions of it, I'd probably be a little less harsh. I mean, I still gave Last of Us a good score. I still think I gave it like an 8 out of 10. For me, it just was more of the story and voice acting was strong, but the gameplay elements on a technical level were just pretty like primitive.
Yeah.
It was like it controlled fine, but there was nothing really rewarding. It was like half-baked stealth with like a little bit of shoot bangs and a really shitty multiplayer, which they did confirm is just being completely cut out of this one, thank God. Rather than have a tacked on half-baked multiplayer or battle royale as they would add now. I made that joke with Josh when we were talking about things getting a battle royale now. It did come out in that era of games where just everything had a fucking shitty multiplayer.
Yeah.
Whether it was Tomb Raider, Mass Effect 3, what have you. Because people forget that Last of Us originally came out on PS3. The game's a lot older than people... Some people tend to forget how old fucking Last of Us is. And now, it was end of PS3 life cycle, but still was a PS3 game, like GTA 5. But... I'm glad that they're getting rid of that, because what it shows to me is that they put their priorities in the right place of, like, why tack one on if it's just going to be a piece of shit. That being said, the gameplay in what we see from the trailer, at least we'll see if we get a demo or if I can get my hands on something. It at least looks more competent looking. Like, the angles and everything seem like it may be... I'm just worried it's going to be more of the same shit mechanically. But if they do if they do polish up the gameplay a bit, and then they're able to deliver a good story again with... Again, the story itself and the voice acting was stellar, in my opinion. Fine.
Yeah.
Fine. Again, I'm like, let Sleeping Dogs lie in my opinion. God, I want another Sleeping Dogs game. But anyways, let Sleeping Dogs lie in my opinion. But if it's good, it's good. I guess I'm just not a fan of things that are like, whoa, that made the monies. Let's make a sequel. That doesn't seem to be the entire motive behind this one. The team seems very enthusiastic and looks like the story will be good, and the acting looks phenomenal. But I don't know. I felt Last of Us could have been... I just want that next title that just doesn't have a fucking sequel. Like, the one that was just like, dude, remember Last of Us was just like that game, man. And Last of Us will forever be remembered as that classic game.
Yeah.
Now it's going to be like, yeah, Last of Us, and then remember another one happened, and it's just like, why the fuck does another one always have to happen? But yeah, I mean, I did like Last of Us. Well, what was y'all's opinion of Last of Us in terms of like... if you played it.
Never played it.
Never played it. Josh is out. Mallory, did you play it much, or did
I
you...
watched someone play it, but it wasn't like, ooh, awesome.
To me, that's too boring of a game to watch, so I would say that you definitely have to play it. Watching it, unless the person is just being a dumbass, is like really not that interesting.
Yeah.
It's like a okay movie.
Yeah. That's why I didn't play it.
Google, I swear to God, if you say something on the podcast again, please stop activating. Stop it. I see you thinking. Please stop. Thank you. Yeah, so we'll see. Last of Us 2. Looks fine. Ellie's old.
Yeah. I mean, it looked good.
That's the only real way to really describe that game. It looks good.
Yeah, like...
Last of Us 2, it looked good. That should just be the subtitle of that fucking game.
It looks good.
Last of Us 2, it looked good.
Unenthusiastic people for Last of Us.
Yeah,
Right.
Last of Us 2, it looked good. Shrug emoji.
Yeah. I mean, that's... So, seeing... Of the footage I've seen for Last of Us 2, it looks like it'll play fine. I don't know what the fuck's going on in the story.
Oh, right, you didn't play the first one.
Yeah, but when I saw that, like, the first... Was it E3 when they showed it? When, like, she's sneaking around in that building and stuff?
Yeah,
like,
you're like, what is this?
it looks like it plays fine. It looks like any other game where you sneak around shooting people.
So that's an interesting perspective, because you probably are, and I don't mean this, denigratingly, but, like, you probably are one of the only few people I know that didn't play Last of Us at all. So it's interesting hearing it from a Last Man on Earth perspective of, like... of like... No, because you really...
I know what's got the damn bambo.
Like I said, most people played it that I know. So it's very interesting hearing it from... Yeah, you're right. It probably looks like fucking hollow-ass shit. You're like, what the fuck am I looking at?
I think I
the
only
Flower
watched,
Man?
5-10 minutes of it before I was like, I don't know. Like, it looks good. And then I just never watched it again.
It's fine. But,
it's fine.
It looks like it'll be fine. It's fine, the game. Speaking of E3, this is something I meant to cover a while back, so it's old news now, but since Josh did bring up E3, I did want to talk about it a little bit with the ESA. Because the ESA, for those who don't know, are a bunch of horseshit lobbyists that pretend to be on the video game, the protect the gamer side, while clearly being in the pocket of big industry. Yeah. It's protection for gamers made by the industry. Let's let that soak in for a second of how much sense that makes. We know
what's good for people.
Exactly. For those who don't really know them, it's because them being branded at the ESA is fairly new. They're the ones who started E3. So there's that. Now, one of the things they did lately is they are the ones who did force the hand of the video game industry, where they are mandating that past X date, I forgot what date it is, that loot box odds do have to be disclosed. So you have to be told X percent for legendary Reinhardt skin. It has to be public knowledge for rare this, blue that, green this, and so on and so forth. So they're making it so companies are going to be mandated to expose those odds. But if you notice, they're just not getting rid of loot boxes. So that's wherein lies their weird compromise where they're like, hey, we're throwing the gamers a bone. Mm-hmm. We're throwing the industry a steak, but we're throwing the gamers a bone. And that's where they're going on that. These are the same people who used the video game shooting scapegoat as an excuse to not talk about the fact that after this E3, they leaked the information of press and journalists from 2004, 2009, and 2019's information by accident and made that public knowledge. You're talking about if this is why Jim said he's very glad he didn't go, since he only ever went to one invited public event ages ago, and he never goes to them because he doesn't believe in being swayed by the developers' money into giving good reviews. So he is invited, but refuses to go to stuff like E3 and everything. And he said he's goddamn glad because they leaked addresses, credit card information, flight itineraries, hotels they stayed at. I think I said credit card info. I'm gonna say it again because it's worth saying twice. And then I also did. I think I said home addresses. So I'm gonna say it again. Home addresses. It leaked, and let's think about why that's a big deal. It's one thing when there's a public breach and Joe Schmo's address is just posted on the internet, and because most people aren't going to care, right? Video game journalists are under such scrutiny, whether it's Jason Schreier or Jim Sterling or Laura Kate Dale. There are some people with hella vendettas against these people. Whether it's the angry internet fan or even industry people like Gearbox's goons. That kind of information becoming public could be detrimental to some people. It's just not comfortable to know that as an individual with an opinion in the internet in 2019, that your information is all out there now, phone numbers as well. A little scary. So the way the ESA got away with being that big oops is that they, one, kept going, hurrah, hurrah, you're right. The video games are innocent. Do not look. It's the guns, not the video game. Don't look at those leaked information that happened at the same time as this gun shooting. All right, guys. Yeah, how dare they throw video games under the bus. But don't look at this leaked information. And then the other problem with it is for when they did address it, they just haphazardly said, my bad, we'll try to make sure that don't happen again. And it was the attitude where it was very flippantly done, where the statement was very cover my assy and not apologetic at all. For sure, at the very least, the best way to say it was not apologetic, was the tone of the apology. Which is not it was basically a non-apology, where they're basically like, we understand that this happened as a thing, and it shouldn't have. And we'll try to make sure it doesn't happen again. So it'll be interesting to see if they do. So, and then that's also, of course, they announced that E3 is being rebranded again. So go figure, after all that mess happened, and they're pretty sure that a lot of journalists are not going to want to come back next year, they announced that E3 is going to become a hybrid convention now of open to the public, which, folks, E3 used to be open to the public. I remember Josh, Daniel, and all of us used to have our delusions of grandeur of going to E3 one day.
Yeah, I remember that.
I did Tom Goes to the Mayor photos of us and everything of us at E3. Those were good times. Then it became a closed event for years now. And now that it looks like journalists may not want to come back, they're kind of doing a thing. So the way they're going to have it set up is it's going to be like a 3-day event still, and there will be a day for the press, a day for the people, and a day for both. Again, it almost seems like they're just trying to be like, there's still people there, and then just show footage from the day that it's all just open to the public. So it'll be interesting. Laura Kate made a very interesting point that a lot of the only press that will be showing up, it seems, after this, a lot of the super professional ones will probably not want to, simply because of the lack of trust at this point in terms of the security of their information and knowing if it could be worse consequences this time, which leaves it to several things. The public and enthusiast press. Enthusiast press would be more people on our tier, kind of, where we're like, hey, free, you're letting our little thing go to E3? Hell yeah, we're down.
Yeah.
A little biased probably because we're being let in for here, which means we have to watch what we say a little bit more now. But now, yeah. So it's, I think that her prediction is right, that it's primarily going to be enthusiast press, and then now this new open to the public thing, public and stuff like that. But it'd be very hard pressed to see a lot of the big time journalists coming again after the betrayal of trust in the last one. So it'll be interesting to see. It's just amazing how a company can just try to, white knight it up by being like, guys, we're there for you guys, protecting the gamers, but then clearly
they're not.
Of nonsense.
Yeah.
It's I mean, for example, the way I am, if I was a much bigger presence, and I would be very afraid to have my information leaked, because some people have had very strong opinions against me forever. I'm a nobody right now. I can only imagine if I was working at Kotaku or Destructoid or whatever, and I was a known journalist, and now all my shit is on blast. My phone would probably be blown up with harassment calls. I'd probably get all sorts of creepy email, like, maybe not fear death, but just harassment.
Yeah.
I just the attitude, again, the flippantness, and then the fact that they're just trying to do these weird two-handed things where, well, let's not really move loot boxes, but we'll expose the odds. It's just like, hey, I guess you're not really, you guys are clearly you guys are still in the pocket of big industry, obviously. And that's the thing. Big industry is the one paying for the ESA, so kind of don't have a choice. It's kind of like, I forgot what we were talking about in the past, but I'm fairly sure Josh has reiterated it several times, is that when Josh and I have, definitely when we've talked privately before, where he's just like, oh, it's hard to bite the hand it feeds. Because him and I had a lot of talks. We have a lot of talks about watching yourself, and then independent journalism, and working for a company. And if you work for a company, or if you are a presence where you do heavily rely on review copies from Gearbox directly, whatever like that, you kind of have no choice but to be a little careful. Even if you want to give something a not so great review for having too much water, you should probably be a little careful with what toes you step on.
Yeah.
So it's true. It's just the nature of the beast, unfortunately.
Oh yeah.
But yeah. And then the final story, and if you guys want to get in on this conversation, you can hit us up at disconnectedcastmail@gmail.com. Once again, that's disconnectedcastmail@gmail.com. And the final story is about Focus Home Interactive. Now, as far as I know, I don't know if you guys played too much Focus games. What is it? We're the Dwarf, Sinking City, Greedfall, Plague Tale, Blood Bowl. If none of those titles ring a bell, they're a very interesting publisher because they're basically bigger budget than indie, but not quite a AAA studio because of lack of polish. But at least when their games are jank, it's kind of like enjoyable jank.
Did you say LA Noire?
No, that's Rockstar.
Oh, okay. Which one did you say the first one was?
Sinking City.
Okay.
Sinking City is a really good one. So Sinking City, Greedfall, and Plague Tale all came out this year. But Sinking City is an interesting one. Huh?
Sinking City sounds familiar. I don't think I've played it, though. I don't think I've played any of those you listed.
Yeah, Plague Tale, excuse me, god damn it. I wanted to talk about Plague Tale. Plague Tale's a good one. Plague Tale takes place, it's a great game that takes place in France with actual French voice actors that takes place during the plague. You go around, there's creepy rat sequences where they're all, you get the goosebumps from watching them, especially if you do not like rodents like me. Enjoyable, deep story, really fun title to come out this year. The other one's Sinking City, which I wouldn't quite put it on the pedestal that I put Deadly Premonition on, but it's broke as fuck, and I love it. It is really fun. Sound volume will just be all over the place for some reason. The voice acting is a little corny sometimes, but it's takes place in a Cthulhu world, and you play as a detective. You kind of are investigating all. Now, not to be confused with the game actually called Call of Cthulhu, which also came out last year. Some people confuse those two titles, but it's a third-person investigation. It's out on Switch now, and PS4, and Epic Games, I believe. Yeah, Epic Games. So there's that, but it's a lot of fun. But it is mechanically broken sometimes. Enemies will like be sinking through the earth, or you won't quite fall through the earth, but it's to the point where you are kind of almost expecting to just fall through the world sometimes. But again, it's still a really enjoyable game despite being so unpolished, and that's kind of Focus's MO, where like Focus puts out a lot of these games which again don't have the AAA Vaseline sheen, but they're definitely high budget enough that you know that this isn't Team Cherry or ironically Team Cherry and Yacht Club Games and Lab Zero have way more polished stuff, even though they're indie. But again, this is the type of thing where you can still tell that these 3D graphics and models do cost lots more money. And then again, I say that, and then Indivisible has Trigger behind it. But that's not the point. The point being is the fact that you can tell it's not quite an indie studio, but it's not AAA, and I love it because they're kind of the medium media darling, and usually they usually are a good thing. They deliver these games that are brave enough to stray from AAA industry Call of Duty nonsense, but are familiar and accessible enough to the masses that aren't quite niche indie stuff. But recently, unfortunately, their agreement ended recently with the developers Frogware. They are a publisher, and the developers that work for them usually have a good relationship for the most part. However, their licensing agreement recently ended with Frogware. Now, per the original agreement with Frogware, when that license expired, Focus could either opt up to try to renew again and work with them continuously and co-own these titles, or Frogware could option to cash out and keep the titles for themselves, where given a new policy which technically started after their agreement but Focus is standing behind, so this is probably going to go to court, they are refusing to relinquish the rights to the games that Frogware worked on to Frogware, despite the fact that the original agreement said that. They've changed the agreement, and they've made a new policy and altered the deal to now just be like, actually, nah, is basically kind of what the new policy changed, which there's got to be a sort of legal precedence where that can't be legal, I feel. Now, we'll have to see how it evolves more, but Frogware did put out a statement talking about how unfortunate it is because the relationship with Focus has been good prior to this point. They did like working for them, they like developing games for them, but they did say the fact that they won't give the license back despite the fact that that's what their original agreement said because of a new policy, which that sentence alone there sums up the situation, and that's what's so fucked up about it. It's just like, this new policy vetoes our old agreement, therefore we don't have to stand by it. We'll see, I guess, where that goes in the court of law. It's possible it could be fine. Again, these type of licensing and rights things is interesting. It's, again, where I joked about it earlier about me being in bigger trouble is when licensing goes down the shitter, those who only own digital copies are going to be at a big disadvantage versus those who have physical copies. Yeah. So that's where I was kind of making that foreshadowing earlier. What I was going to say is, it's to the point where Focus is actually refusing to do it so hard that they are basically like, all right, you know what? Keep fighting this, and we're just going to stop distributing those games. Yeah. So, one of the games that Frogware worked on with them was Sherlock Holmes' Crime and Punishment series. And that, for example, is a game that's going to start getting pulled from Sony and Microsoft and possibly even Steam, depending on how deep this goes, where Focus is just going to start stonewalling Frogware, where they're going to be like, you know what? No one gets it then. So, it's a shame. Again, this mid-tier publisher, which was almost going to could have been given credit as the savior from the AAA, without interfering with the indies, has now got mired up in this controversy, is a bit of a shame. I know you guys don't really have personal experiences with those games, at least based on the examples I gave, but the point I'm trying to talk about as well is the fact that archival has just become such a dangerous thing now, where the industry tends to so freely use the ability to just be like, stop distribution. Yeah. The DuckTales game recently. PT. Yeah. Telltale titles. The games, we're in an era now where the games can literally disappear. Yeah. Which I don't think I'd ever thought would happen. Exactly. It just would have made no sense to high school us, even to early college us. The idea that we could buy a game and not
not really be able to own it.
Yeah.
It shows that it's unfortunate that money can get in the way of a good deal, aka we talked about Disney and Disney and Marvel, and so I don't know. My nose got stuffy halfway through, so my vocal tone just changed. I don't know where that came from. My sinuses just fucking blew up. But anyways, the rights battles, which can lead to gamers suffering by losing titles from their library that they paid money for.
Yeah.
It's not the first time it's come up on this podcast of how scary that is, but it's just once again become a looming reminder of where we're at right now in terms of what a weird world we live in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's weird because I'm thinking about I'm thinking about high school me and having that hard copy in my hand, playing my Xbox 360. Or even just the original Xbox. And, yeah, I don't think I ever thought about losing one of those games, like, that way.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, Josh, I know you also like your collections, but this would be an obvious motivator to continue going more physical than digital. Would that being the case, I don't know, what's the specific question? I'm trying to just see how I could word it properly, but I guess the easiest way for me to ask it is, has this ever been a thought in your head, even prior to the last few years where it's become more prevalent, where you're like, I just want to make sure I have this game, and this game in my hand will always exist? Did you ever have that thought already, even in the past?
Probably definitely not in the past. I would think probably one thought is, considering that backwards compatibility really isn't a thing, one thought I had is how exactly are you going to, like, future-proof this? Which it doesn't really seem like there's an answer for that.
Yeah.
I guess it really didn't. I think the first thing I can think of when these thoughts really started coming to me was when they pulled Marvel vs. Capcom 2.
Yeah.
You know? And yeah, I do buy the physical copies, but one thing that I do get concerned of too is that a lot of these games, you know, the data that's on the disc isn't really playable.
Right, yeah, it prompts
so many games have a patch. Like, if they completely pull a game, like, are they going to remove the download files? Like, fortunately, I haven't had that problem yet. Like,
but you're right, though.
One example, yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, that's one concern.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I mean, I personally haven't experienced that yet, because, like, the Godzilla game for PS4 is one example where they did pull it from the stores, but I was able to install it and, you know, download, you know, the update to be able to play it. But in general, I definitely hate the fact that we're getting to a point where, you know, these certain services, you know, like, was it recently, like, Ultraviolet just stopped?
Yep, correct.
So,
Ultraviolet's dead.
Sucked if you had your digital library on there. Fortunately for me, I had this thing where any movie codes that I get, I can just put them onto Vudu, which is through Walmart. But what if they choose to discontinue that?
Mm-hmm.
Right. So,
you know, like,
so I got fucked by Ultraviolet. My whole collection's gone there. Which is fine because I got all those. I never actually bought through Ultraviolet. Mm-hmm. I got all those through. Those are my extra codes, so I still own all those Blu-rays.
Yeah.
But when I do go digital, that's why I went all in with Google instead. But that still doesn't Google may not go anywhere, but that doesn't 100% mean that they won't kill off their movie branch.
Yeah.
So you're right.
Yeah.
It does open that, right? And what you said, and I'm glad it went there because this is the kind of sub point I was trying to extract from asking for your opinion on it, is that the hairs get split even further from, does the physical disc actually have the data on it, or does it proc a download and is technically a license key disc?
Mm-hmm.
And if a download is restricted, it can be one of two things, right? It could be PT, where if it is not installed on your console, you are never downloading that bitch ever again.
Yeah.
Or DuckTales, where as long as you own the license, you bought it at a point in time, you can't always re-download it.
Mm-hmm.
So that alone splits it into 3 hairs already. I'm sure people could give even more examples, but you have license where, like I said, download where if it's not on there right now, you're fucked. Download where I bought the thing, so I'm fine. I can always re-download it. And then the third one where disc, it opens up the thing. Disc is actually bullshit disc and not really a game. It's insane that these are starting to become not just existing concerns, but ones that too many times, even in 2019, have reared its ugly head as an example. It used to just be a paranoia. Yeah. Starting in 2017, 2018, in this digital age we live in, where most people do, like, 80% of sales now is all digital for gaming now, started to proc these concerns. But just in 2019 alone, we've heard of so many, with the Telltale shutting down and all that stuff, we've heard too many horror stories now. Yeah. And then you have ones where companies are just notorious for it, right? It's like Disney loves selling these games, but then they do it so limitedly. Like DuckTales Remastered pulled it after a few years. Now they just announced, which was very relevant to our last conversation, crazy enough that later that week they announced that they're doing Lion King and Aladdin game double pack re-release.
Yeah.
Now, I don't think it's remastered, but it's being re-released, right? But Jim Sterling made a very good point, and it's not like he's the only one who thought of it, but I like the way he said it, was how long till Disney pulls that shit?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
How long till it goes
Disney
back in the
is one of the most notorious ones of revoking that shit. Now, thankfully, far...
Like years ago when they would have that Disney Vault BS, like, oh, we're going to stop selling these movies.
Oh my god, I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, I just said that.
Oh, we're bringing these movies back, guys.
For a limited time of like 3 months.
They already do it with their movies. You guys are absolutely right. It's no wonder the video games just follow suit. Oh my god.
No,
that's scary.
It fucking sucks. Yeah. Like, Disney has pretty much always been like really bad with that kind of shit.
Isn't it like once every 5 years?
I do want to add one thing real quick before I forget.
What's up?
But another thing that's like really, really fucking terrible and like just makes me so angry because we don't really own the shit that we buy. I don't know if you're aware of what Adobe has recently done. I think this is like a few months old by now, but
no, but please enlighten me.
You have to have their most current version of their software. You have to be paying for those licenses. If you have an older version of Adobe Photoshop or Premiere or whatever, and Adobe detects it, they can fucking sue your ass or some shit.
Are you serious?
Yeah. Because technically the license has run out.
Yeah.
What the actual
bullshit.
Fuck?
So if you actually paid for your Adobe program back then, before they did like their little monthly subscription thing, like guess what? You don't technically own it anymore.
So you're pirating it now, technically.
Right? Yeah, they're.
That's how they're marketing
pirating. Yeah, it's bullshit.
You're pirating the thing you bought. That is so fucked up. Fucking Adobe.
This is why I use Linux for a bunch of stuff that I do.
That is so fucked.
It's open source.
I did not know that. Thank you for letting me know, Josh, about how fucked that is.
Mm-hmm.
It's bad.
Yeah.
That's awful. That is like shitting in the mouth bad. Like that is just.
But then how long does it take for, like, I guess my question now is, how long do you think it's going to take from, like, because we've seen it with software doing it, obviously. How long do you think it's going to take till the video games get part of that? Like,
well, with live service nonsense that's coming out, we're honestly not that far from it.
Right? Like, and these are things that we never thought of when we were first starting in video games, and now these are the actual fears that we're going to have.
Yeah, it's crazy. Almost everything we talked about, even in just today's self-contained episode, is problems that did not exist just a decade ago, even. If not 5 years ago.
I don't think we ever had this worry 5 years ago either.
It's fucking awful. And Josh, you talked about lack of backwards compatibility and that starting to not become as much of a thing, which, bless Microsoft for being pretty goddamn good about doing their best to keep that going, man. The fact that the Xbox One is compatible all the way back to the OG for the important titles, I'm going to straight up say it. All the important titles are backwards compatible now. That's not common, obviously, because Sony doesn't do that. They do their weird, half-assed resell your PS2 games meme. And then it does make me think, right, now, thankfully, the Switch is only a couple years old, and Nintendo is very good at keeping their consoles alive for quite a while. Iterations, of course, new versions as they will, but the lifespan, I mean, think about it, 3DS is still dropping games very recently. They even announced that there's still about a year left to support, at least before the 3DS dies, and the 3DS has been a thing for a while now. So I'm not too worried about that. However, my thing that I do wonder, in lieu of obvious licensing issues, because here we go again with that will always unfortunately just be a problem, is all this money I'm dumping into my Switch, because with how much money I've already spent on it in 2 years, or in the case of me, is like in the, however much I bought it back in January, February, how much of that library, if any of it, will be relevant in the next generation? Or is this just another case of... And again, naturally, you can make the argument of, well, when you move from PS2 to PS3, you move your PS3 to PS4, you technically are spending hundreds of dollars, and then it's stuck on that console. But I would still like to hope that I would hope, especially like Nintendo would like to start kind of... Because to me, it almost seems like it should be a Nintendo thing, too, but then again, Nintendo got a Nintendo, but... for them to want to have it where your games kind of just work and your library is kind of being this whole amalgamation of stuff instead of just per era, like only your Wii U games. Because the thing that kind of makes me feel that way is a lot of these games, especially the ones that I'm enjoying, like Tokyo Mirage Sessions coming out in a few months, is... They do seem to be like pulling the best of the Wii U, since that kind of got lost in time, sequelizing some of the best 3DS stuff, and even porting some stuff from PC to PS3. Gives me a feeling that since they're trying to make the Switch be this be-all console kind of pulling the best of the best indies and AAA title-wise, since they finally have that AAA support, is... one, that they do want to give the Switch a long lifespan, but it also does give me the feeling that they also do want to make as much of this stuff their next console backwards compatible as possible. I'm hoping, again, minus some licensing nonsense, which I'm sure will stop some titles from moving up. But
so since Microsoft, and I have to say, Xbox really did do a good job with their backwards compatibility, because I mean, I can go back and look at all the games I used to play, and I'm super excited about it. Like that's how I found Aliens Humanoid. But since they're working with Microsoft, do you think that they're taking more from Microsoft's way that they're doing things than just their online?
I would say that they have a lot of things to... So, this is the thing, right? Is that the existence... so when Nintendo almost went bankrupt twice with the Wii U, and... people were, at that time, people were saying shit like, oh well, Nintendo's time's passed, the Wii U sucks, it's just time to just admit it, and just, blah, 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 this is what happens. Iwata took 2 pay cuts to save it, and, here we are now with the glorious, glorious fucking Switch. I feel like the existence of all three is very important, right? Is because Nintendo is the grandfather who doesn't quite get the technology, they get the bugs and the nasties out of the computer. But they're charming, and they do have stuff to bring to the table that when they do make a killer title like ARMS or Splatoon, they show that they still got it. They can still innovate when they want to. Microsoft is always ahead of the game on the tech side like nobody's business. PSN, everything that the PlayStation is now, has a lot to owe to the 360 in terms of structure and everything like that. And Sony has always shown that they've always focused more on the games than the tech side of things, and they kind of just pick and choose and copy a la carte from Microsoft or Nintendo as they wish to go. And they're like, the cousin who borrows a couple of bucks here and there. But he's a cool dude, so fuck it.
You just let it go.
Yeah, I think they learned from their mistake with the PS3.
Yeah, absolutely. And there was a lot of that's what people forget is the dark mistakes. They made a lot of mistakes with the PS3, and because
the PS3, like they promoted the fuck out of the tech in there.
Yeah.
But the problem with that is that it was so much more difficult to code for it, and so that's why they didn't have as much software.
It's a bit ironic, right? Is that of this generation, Xbox One was the PS3 of this generation.
Yeah.
They kept bragging about the tech. They went all in on that. But Microsoft's flaw, thought the coding wasn't necessarily difficult for it, but they spent so much time gloating about it being a technical marvel that it ended up being weaker than the PS4 out of the box. And then that was already a big whoops. But then they were so busy, again, hoorah, hoorah, we're the strongest console, that they also forgot to make games for it.
Yeah.
So, which, again, is very familiar of the PS3 having one of the shittiest launches I can remember in recent time. The PS3 had fuck all at the beginning.
That's
why I got my 360.
As fuck too. Like, I just remember the only incentive to get a PS3 was that it was the cheapest Blu-ray player you could get.
Yeah, it was. That was it. So,
I forgot about that.
I really
that shit was like $700 when that came out.
Yeah. Yep. So, like I said, I believe it's well, when Nintendo almost died, Sony and Phil Spencer from Microsoft and Sony's exec at the time both said that Nintendo is easily the most important of the three of them. Both of them said that. And I still feel that, not just in the adversity that they went through with the Wii U, and then, of course, Iwata's sacrifices that led to the Switch and the success where they are... people are calling the Switch Nintendo's greatest console to date, which, again, obviously no arguments from me there. And then, two, seeing them finally kind of on top again in terms of, like, they found their stride, which Nintendo seems to have lost for a long time now. I would say absolutely they're the most important because not just have they been there the longest by a country mile, but they've really shown that being the awkward, goofy one isn't necessarily inherently a bad thing, and my point is that all three companies do learn from each other a lot, and then, it's like Sony learns from Microsoft's tech, Microsoft learns from Sony that you need games, Nintendo just kind of is this weird floater in between the two of them where they start to improve their tech and then they accidentally neglect the game side of things, but then they always have their first party titles which always save them, and then they regain their third party support, and it's just they're like the recycling bin symbol of the arrows going around. I do feel they're very necessary.
I feel like if we lost one of them, all of them would kind of eventually lose suit.
And I would say that as much as people make fun of the Dreamcast, the Dreamcast was a tragic example of being too far ahead of your time.
Yeah.
Because the OG Xbox took a shitload of cues from the Dreamcast.
Man, I loved my Dreamcast.
The Dreamcast was cool.
People need to stop hating
that was
on
way
that.
too ahead of its time. Plus, you could burn your games just on regular CDR, so that was a little bit of a whoops. But
that was cool,
it had a built-in web browser.
It did have a built-in web browser, and then you had your little weird Tamagotchi memory card insert thing.
Yeah, and you had that was the first Phantasy Star Online.
Yep.
It was on there.
Oh my god, yeah, good times. The Dreamcast certainly did a lot for its time, but again, unfortunately, it was just a perfect class example of too ahead of its time. It's not like some of this novelty or bullshit tech like the PS Move, which just sucks ass. It was just an example of it was fine. It was just people just didn't get it at the time. And now the current gen we have now, if you think about the features that it had then, albeit a shittier version, the Dreamcast feature for feature description wise kind of fits into this generation better than anything if you think about it, especially with that internet browser. So, it's interesting. I think that the current trio of major platforms we have right now is a very important trio, and I hope that they continue to be the trio for a while. I know there's a lot of people who could live without their Xboxes, but you know what? I do know a lot of Xbox players still, and ones who choose to stick with Xbox, despite the fact that sometimes it leaves me scratching my head. But I like to see the underdog have its fans.
Yeah.
Because, let's face it, when it comes to this, other than having big muscles, which is what Xbox has always been able to flex, especially with the Xbox One X, which they, again, showed that you can have the best hardware, but then if you don't have the games to back it up, or games... I mean, fucking Super Lucky Tail was one of the first ones that only really showed it off, and it was just like, okay. It's nice to see Xbox still have its fans, even if there's a lot of people in the gaming industry that don't quite understand it. It's just really what it is. Because I couldn't explain to you why Xbox has so many fans, but I do like the fact that they do.
I'm one of those.
So
I will probably always buy an Xbox before I buy a PS system.
Yeah, actually, come to think of it, our trio here has our very strong... We like all our consoles, obviously, but I do know that Josh has a very strong affinity for his PlayStation. I am a fucking annoying mark about my Switch. And you are, like, you do love your Xbox and are very open about being an Xbox person. So it's kind of interesting that that's like the three of us right there, basically. A weeaboo, an actual weeaboo, a weeaboo in denial, and a gamer girl.
And me.
So that's the three of us.
Licking her controllers while playing Call of Duty.
All right, y'all, let's wrap it. Mr. Josh, where can everyone find you on the internets?
Twitter and Instagram at Yoshiro Joestar. YouTube, Shiro Play Game. No.
Shiro Play 5.
Yeah, Shiro Play 5. That's what it was. God, I can't even remember.
There you go. That's how you know it's time to wrap. Yeah. Miss Mallory?
You can find me on Instagram at awesome_Mally. Remembered this time.
There you go.
And then you can check out my YouTube channel, but there's nothing much on there, so...
Or you can look at Awesome Mally together and check out some cringy hip-hop reviews and covers.
That's not me, though.
That's not her, though.
That's not me.
It's just another Awesome Mally that is a guy.
Someone's using my name.
So there's that. And you can also check out the original Shiro channel, which that is a thing, too. You can also check my band account at ZD Rocker. Or you can see me at SlimAsianEntertainment.com, which is just youtube.com/ZDRock3R Masked. It rolls off the tongue a bit better. And then, of course, you can find me on most social medias at ZDRocker, and you can also check out all the episodes of Disconnected Casts, including ones that aren't out yet, or perhaps you're listening to this in the future and there's a bunch of them out after this one, at disconnectedcast.com, assuming I'm still paying the bill for that. And you can do that, and we'll see you guys every Monday at 11 a.m. Central Standard Time. Until next week, see ya.
Bye.
Bye.
Got him.